short time ago, the sun went down on Formula One as it used to be. Singapore brings us the most advanced new street circuit the sport has ever seen, complete with the most advanced street lighting the world has ever seen. It's now all set to bring us, for the first time, the Singapore Grand Prix at night. Some felt it wasn't possible, and some remain to be convinced. Spectacular Singapore is ready for Formula One, but is its city centre circuit able to produce the racing that the nighttime fans have come to see? Yesterday, one man in particular proved that even racing under lights, Formula One drivers can produce their brave and brilliant best.
It's all now on these last few corners for 27-year-old Felipe Massa. 1 point behind Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. Going into tomorrow's Grand Prix, can he take pole? Yes, he can! A stunning lap by Felipe Massa.
Done it, mate. Done it. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Hamilton is behind you. I think that was an absolutely stunning lap, Felipe.
Distinctive tones of Ferrari's Rob Smedley acknowledging the brilliant lap from Felipe Massa that gave him Formula One's first ever nighttime pole position. So now here we are, ready to race in the sultry heat of a Singapore evening. Also that you at home in the UK can watch your live Formula One in your traditional Sunday lunchtime slot. But actually, Mark, it's no great problem, because on the evidence of qualifying yesterday, racing at night is a tremendous success, could well be the future.
I think it could be the future, especially for circuits like Melbourne, Australia, then with a time difference. They've done a tremendous job here, Steve. I haven't heard any complaints from the drivers about the conditions under lights.
And if anything, it adds to the spectacle.
It really does. I mean, to see an F1 car come around the circuit in the dark, yes, there's floodlights, but you still see all the brakes glowing. You see the sensation of the skid blocks, the sparks coming underneath. Fantastic.
Well, absolutely everything about this Singapore weekend is huge, from the imagination it's taken to actually put it on, to the construction project involved, to the astonishing lighting that's been imported. Equally huge, you might say, is the carbon footprint this event has created, but that's something for Formula One to defend. Because as Ted Kravitz reports, there's a great deal to admire in Singapore's staging of the first night race.
Situated just north of the equator, Singapore was once a Malay fishing village. Named Singapura, Sanskrit for Lion City, it's been a bustling port since the 14th century. British imperial rule was established when Sir Stamford Raffles and the East India Company landed on the island in 1819 and claimed it for the Crown 5 years later. Singapore gained independence in 1965.
The world is starting to change for Singapore, because originally we were a trading port, and now it's a more an international city now. We need something special to bring people here, Formula One.
Singapore looks good enough in the day, so why go to all the bother and the expense of holding a race at night?
The night race came from Mr. Eccleston. He had the foresight to say that Singapore, night race in Singapore fit brilliantly, you know, because of the location. And he knew if any country could do it, Singapore could do it.
I suppose we wanted to be different. I mean, this is the first night race that's being held, and it attracts a lot of people. And, you know, the time zone is also such that between us and Europe and the other audiences, the night is a much better time to do so.
Everything took 18 months from scratch, and I think it's a bit of a record.
None of the teams has any data about how the new track will evolve, but Ferrari might have a handy advantage. The bitumen is made by their sponsor, Shell.
We were lucky because, thanks to our collaboration, we had the Fiorano track completely resurfaced with a new technology, with new product, and that helps a lot.
But the busiest workers here have been the electricians. 1,500 lights placed 4 meters apart, providing 3,000 lux. That's 100 times brighter than the lights on the average UK motorway. Organisers are as sure as they can be the lights won't go out in the middle of the race.
Safety is one of our paramount concerns, not just for the drivers, but for everyone else who has to work around the circuit. Essentially, we don't want anybody to have to do anything too different to what they normally do at a daytime race.
It's a wonderful sound, sight and everything else. The whole town is alive with this. Everybody's Formula One. Nobody stops talking about it in Singapore. It's the first night race for us, and it's the first in the world. So that makes it, for me, the night race extra special.
And the other great thing about racing at night, especially, Mark, in this part of the world, it's going to be substantially cooler, but this is still going to be a very physically demanding race for the drivers.
It's going to be very tough indeed, Steve. Humidity is very high. The work rate's very intense around here. So many corners, but the bumps on the circuit are taking their toll. That's coming through the chassis, through the driver. They've got to absorb all that energy being transferred. So very difficult for the guys.
And Singapore at this time of year is also famous for its rain, its thunderstorms. There was a big storm just about 5 kilometres away from here about half an hour ago. Everyone up and down the pit lane is very nervous.
They are concerned because when it does rain here, it comes down very thick and fast. And I think the drainage may be a bit of an issue. But saying that, a little bit unpredictable. We've seen the clouds come in and we've felt a little bit of rain, but it seems to be going away. And let's keep our fingers crossed.
The rain under the lights, that's an unknown quantity.
Well, it could be very difficult. You know what it's like driving down the motorway. It's raining, the lights are on, there's a lot of glare. That could be the same thing for a windscreen and a visor for the driver. So tough conditions.
OK, before we get into the serious business of the race prospects, we've got Jensen Button demonstrating the other construction project for which Singapore is famous.
What about this fantastic building we're in at the moment? Had you heard of this place before?
The Raffles Hotel. It's the oldest hotel in Singapore. It's beautiful. It really is.
Tell me about what you've just been doing upstairs with Jimmy the barman.
With Jimmy the barman upstairs, we've been making a Singapore Sling, which I must admit is quite alcoholic. It's a very alcoholic drink, very sweet, and he's been showing me some of his skills.
Tell me a bit about the ingredients, what you put into it.
Ingredients in a Singapore Sling. It's mostly gin-based. There's a cherry liqueur. There is Cointreau in it. There is like a herbal liqueur also, and then quite a bit of pineapple juice and lemon juice, and shake it up, and there you go. The Singapore Sling, the most expensive drink in Singapore, I think.
And it's certainly given Jensen a bit of a pick-me-up. He's at the wrong end of the championship, but he's qualified 12th for this evening's race. At the top of the table, Hamilton and Felipe Massa, poised for a 4-race shootout to decide the title. Hamilton leads Massa by a single point. Singapore, Japan, China and Brazil are the races to come. And you have to think that Kubica and Raikkonen are now just fringe players in the title battle. Constructors' Championship has become pretty intense, with Ferrari and McLaren separated by just 5 points, even after the Paris appeal against the result of the Belgian Grand Prix went against McLaren. And it's equally intense for fourth, with Toyota and Renault locked together on 41 points. Renault hit hard yesterday by Fernando Alonso's mechanical failure in Q2. And James Allen can take us through all the details of qualifying.
Felipe Massa is turning into something of a street racing specialist this year. Pole in Monaco, pole and the win in Valencia, and yesterday on the streets of Singapore, he was on fire. The historic first qualifying session under floodlights was action all the way. The cars looked spectacular over the bumps and curbs. Fernando Alonso's pace in the Renault looked good enough to get him into the front 2 rows of the grid, but a fuel flow problem knocked him out early. He's 15th. David Coulthard and Jensen Button just made it through into the second part of qualifying this time, but no further. Button 12th, Coulthard 14th. Sebastian Vettel underlined his form once again. A second quicker than the Red Bulls, he was 4th fastest in Quali 2, en route to 6th on the grid. Lewis Hamilton lived very dangerously in Quali 2. He fluffed his first run and then had a scruffy second lap. He was 10th, at the mercy of other cars, but none were quick enough to knock him out of the top 10 shootout. Raikkonen was quick in Quali 1 and Quali 2, but could manage only 3rd when it mattered, 1 place behind Hamilton, who was relieved just to be there. On pole for the 5th time this year was Felipe Massa, by a margin of 0.6 of a second, suggesting he's a little bit lighter on fuel than Hamilton for the race. It should be a real street fight between those two tonight.
I think we have a great race pace. I think we have a good car which take care about the tires, so that can be for sure important for the race tomorrow.
And strategically, why is it important to be at the front here, given what we think will happen with overtaking?
Well, first of all, you set your pace, and second here is almost impossible to overtake, and it's always better to be in the front and have a clear view about everything.
I didn't heat the rear brakes up well enough, and so then I had a problem with them. I went into turn 1 and they didn't work, so I went straight on, and then it took ages to get them back. So it was a little bit of a disadvantage, but fortunately I got through. And you know, so to be on the front row, considering we had that issue, I think I'll take it.
It's very, very tricky, to be honest. You need to be focused all throughout the lap, and the lap is very long, so nearly 2 minutes flat out through the city here. But, you know, in the end, we are very, very happy.
So let's take a look at the grid for the first ever Formula One night race. On pole for the 5th time this season, Felipe Massa. Lewis Hamilton alongside. What a wonderful scrap that's going to be. Raikkonen hasn't been on the front row for 7 races. Kubica is 4th. Kovalainen 5th, with Vettel a second quicker than the Red Bulls in 6th. Timo Glock, outstanding in the Toyota, has Nico Rosberg for company. Then it's Heidfeld and Nakajima, his first time in the top 10. Truly a bit off colour this weekend. Button gave it his best shot. He's 12th. It's the 2 Red Bulls on row 7, Webber and Coulthard. Fernando Alonso could have been at the front, but a fuel problem means he's 15th with his teammate Piquet alongside. Bourdais and Barrichello on row 9. And at the back, the 2 Force Indias, Sotil and Fisichella, who crashed twice on Saturday.
He's on the front row, so I suppose we shouldn't be too concerned. But why did Lewis seem to be struggling in qualifying yesterday, especially in Q2, where he was on the brink once again?
Yeah, I think we put it down to he didn't do enough laps, Steve. And I think when you're on a street circuit in particular, you've got to find your rhythm. You need to make sure you find every little line, the best place to be and not to be on the track because of those lumps and bumps. And just getting a nice flow. If you make one little mistake, it's going to be costly. It's a long lap, nearly 2 minutes, and I think that was the basis of why he was a little bit slower than Massa.
Failed to get through Q2 in Monza 2 weeks ago. Is he starting to feel extra pressure in qualifying?
I think there's a little bit of pressure coming through, and I have to say, I think Massa's also got the same pressure on his shoulders, and he delivered with an outstanding lap. So, you know, yes, I think there's a lot of things going against Lewis. Let's not forget that he was in the courthouse only a week ago, or just under that, before he turned up here.
Well, Massa, to his credit, delivered just about the perfect lap here last night, and Martin Brundle has been taking a closer look at exactly how he got it so right.
The Marina Bay Grand Prix circuit, 3.15 miles, a 61-lap race, over 100 seconds per lap. Let's take a look at a magnificent pole lap from Felipe Massa down into turn 1, about 170 miles an hour. Takes a bit of the green tarmac on the way in. This lap is remarkable that it's actually very calm indeed. Turns 1, 2 and 3 dispatched absolutely simply. He is really getting on top of these latest 2.4-litre V8 Formula One cars. Turn 5, smooth on the power, no drama at all. He runs around the outside of the very bumpy turn 6, switches to the inside to the equally bumpy braking zone of turn 7, down 5 shifts to the outside, sneaks a couple of wheels over the other side of the curb. Turn 8, arrive, turn in, apex, throttle through the exit, a classic 90-degree corner on a street circuit. 9, more of a sweeping left-hander this time onto the back straight. Follow the yellow line, staying roughly to the right-hand side, looking for this crucial turn 10 chicane. He just glances through all 3 apexes. Beautiful driving. This turn 13 feeds you into the Anderson Bridge. Bring it to the left-hand side to straighten the car for heavy braking to the left-hand hairpin onto the Esplanade Bridge. A long run up to over 180 miles an hour. Diagonal it for the shortest route to be on the left-hand side for heavy braking into the 100-degree turn 15. The back end just trying to step out on him there. A sweeping left-hander takes you into a 90 right for the Marina Bay itself. Short straight, 90-degree left-hander, past the grandstand, up to about 140 miles an hour. A tricky little left-hander underneath the grandstand this time, 90 right for a finish. Now, a fast chicane ahead, 3rd gear, take a bit of curb on the way in. Don't jump too far off on the exit because the wall is very close. The final 2 critical corners. He brakes and downshifts into the first apex, hard on the throttle through the exit. A brilliant and well-deserved pole position for Felipe Massa.
And the most impressive thing was the margin by which he took that pole position, 0.6 of a second. Did that say to you, brilliant lap or low fuel?
To me, it says brilliant lap. Just watch the lap that he did there. He only made about 2 mistakes, and I say mistakes, they're not really mistakes, they're actually counteracting what the car was doing underneath him. Around here, around the street course, 23, 24 corners, you know, pretty near perfect. And that's the kind of thing that when you get it right, you're going to get big advantages and a lap time will come. I don't think Hamilton quite got his lap together.
Well, and this is a circuit as well where it is so easy to get caught out. We've seen that over the last couple of days.
It's a tough circuit indeed. You can see a number of the guys getting caught out. A couple of them have been in the wall, a number of them have been spinning. But the other thing for me, Steve, as well, the Ferrari just looks so much easier to drive, lap after lap. I know what car I'd like to be doing a race distance in, and it's definitely a red car at this point.
Well, we've seen over the years the meticulous approach, the planned approach that the teams take to competing in Formula One. But you move their established schedule on 7 hours, and you can imagine the consternation that that generates. Ted Kravitz now looks at how the timetable of a Grand Prix weekend has had to be adapted here.
6,500 miles to hold a Grand Prix at night has led to some very strange timetable alterations.
It's 1:30 in the afternoon. This pit lane should be full of mechanics readying the cars before the race, fans trying to get their last autographs. Instead, the stands are empty, and anyone working in Formula One is still asleep.
That's often just as well, as it's been scorching hot here in the day, with sunshine and 32 degrees in the shade. By mid-afternoon, it started to cool off.
4:45, we're just starting work.
It's 10 to 4 in the afternoon.
Well, that's okay. That's the sort of time gentlemen should be getting up for work anyway, isn't it?
We're really just displacing ourselves by the amount that the sessions are displaced, and it seems to be working very well. The guys are fresh, and they seem to be enjoying it.
So what does that mean? When's lunch? When's dinner? What time are we talking?
Well, this is one of the problems. We're never sure what to call the meals, but we got guys coming in, for example, today, 4:30 in the afternoon, and then having breakfast. Today we'll be having lunch at around 11 p.m. I think, and we have our evening meal probably around 4 a.m.
Our team doctor has done some research on that subject, and he's consulted with some specialists in the sleeping pattern, the whole function, how the body is doing, and he found out that it's possibly a benefit in terms of performance. You're trying to be as sharp as possible at the right time.
It's now 5:15 in the afternoon, and I only woke up like 3 hours ago, so then I'll be driving and it'll be night time, and so my body, teaching your body and your mind to believe it's your daytime, yet here it's nighttime. From 8 o'clock it'll be pitch black all the way till 5 a.m. in the morning. It kind of messes with your mind.
Many people have been struggling to fight the body clock, but it's been perfect for a night owl like Raikkonen.
I sleep when I feel like it, and I wake up when I feel like it, so it should be fine. It's not that we're going to race in the middle of the night, so I mean it's on the evening.
And there have been some other interesting side effects. Clear visors means we can see into the driver's eyes and see how calm or otherwise they are. The pit crews have been issued with high-definition goggles. McLaren have stapled on a load of LEDs to their pit wall gantry, while Red Bull's strip lights take the more practical approach. And the prize for the most inventive nighttime solution goes to Toyota for their flashing pit board.
Well, the drivers aren't just having to cope with the demands of operating on a different timetable, they're also finding this track physically very demanding. Nick Harris is the physiologist at Williams. Nick, just how tough is this race going to be for them?
It's very tough. I mean, there's 23 corners every lap, 61 laps. It's at night, it's very hot and humid. It's very bumpy, so concentration also be a big issue, so it's going to be very, very tough, yeah.
What effect will all those factors have on them?
Fatigue, of course. They're going to lose probably 2 to 3 kilos of body weight, and because street circuit, again, every error could be costly, hit a brick wall.
And you mentioned it's at night. Does that have any effect in itself physiologically on the drivers?
No, definitely. I mean, it's no secret most drivers stayed on European time, but that's a big challenge because then you only get maybe 4 hours daylight every day. So the body fails to get into a natural rhythm of daylight. So eating at different times and peaking at different times. So that is a big challenge, yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
OK, thanks.
But everyone has adjusted, so now let's focus a little bit more clearly on what this Singapore Grand Prix weekend is all about, and indeed what the rest of this Formula One season is all about. It's McLaren against Ferrari, Hamilton against Massa for the World Championship title. Ferrari have certainly got their act together here, and the reputation of Felipe Massa on pole position today grows and grows with every race. Let's first of all take a look at how Ferrari are attacking the climax to the season.
This has been a crucial couple of weeks for Ferrari. After a terrible home race at Monza, their president Luca Di Montezemolo met with the drivers and effectively told Kimi Räikkönen to support Felipe Massa. The team also got a result when McLaren lost their Belgian Grand Prix appeal, keeping Massa 1 point behind Hamilton.
It was pretty clear that the appeal was going to be very difficult for them, but we never know until we have the result. I think the result was pretty fair.
And having lost that fight to Ferrari, McLaren also lost out in the battle for pole. Felipe has claimed pole position on every street circuit this season.
Under a lot of pressure, the pair of them are under a lot of pressure, and he's delivered. We had some good long runs yesterday. The temperature should be very similar to how it is tonight, but you know we were a little bit quicker than our closest rivals, so you know hopefully with the pole position and our race pace we should be all right.
What happens if it rains to the Ferrari?
I don't think anything. We should be okay. We never know. Sometimes we are good, sometimes not, and I think it depends a lot of places and how we get things going, but we do the best that we can.
It'll be easy to make a mistake on this physical, bumpy track. There's also a good chance of a safety car, but Ferrari are looking good on their flexible strategy. A short first stint 2-stop or a standard 3-stop.
We just need to do the best we can in the strategies in the race, and let's concentrate. We can finish the race tomorrow because it will be a very long. It's almost impossible to overtake, and it's always better to be in the front and have a clear view about everything.
Lewis Hamilton arrived in Singapore with his championship lead still anchored at 1 point after McLaren's appeal against his Belgian Grand Prix penalty was found to be inadmissible by the FIA and dismissed.
I'm sure if we hadn't put the case, having prepared it, we'd have been frustrated. So I think they listened to everything. They came to a ruling, which obviously we're disappointed, but we're not going to dwell on it. We're here to race this weekend. We're going to concentrate on that.
And they'll be concentrating on Lewis. Heikki Kovalainen, who's played his joker card and taken his one permissible engine change without penalty, was relegated to a supporting role when he qualified 5th, whilst Hamilton's on the front row, albeit over half a second off Felipe Massa's single-lap pace.
Felipe must have been on an extremely strong strategy to really outpaced us, I think. As you can see in the practice, we were very close, and all of a sudden it's quite a big gap. And I mean, maybe I could have gone maybe two tenths faster, maybe, but that wasn't the case. It looks like we're on the back foot, but I don't think we are. I think we're in a strong strategy position. It's going to be key we get a good start. I can only guess that the dirtier side is worse, because literally the dry line is the normal race line is over the normal grid positions, the first, third, and so on. So we have to wait and see. I hope that we have a fighting chance to win the race. But as I said, with the strategy, I think maybe if I stick close enough, if I am behind, I think we have a good shot at it.
And you could hear there the sort of sense of shock in Lewis's voice that he's been beaten to pole position by such a margin.
I think he knows he could have gone a little bit quicker, but again, I think it's just because he made a few mistakes. He locked up in a couple of corners. Massa didn't make any mistakes whatsoever, and that's the difference. He just got the lap together. If you get it dead on round a place like this, you're going to get that advantage. But saying that 0.6 of a second, it's a big one.
But Felipe Massa has found himself on pole position at every street circuit during the course of this past season. What do we read into that?
Well, we know he's good round them, that's for sure. But we also know 9 times out of 10, when Massa starts on the front row or on pole position, he normally goes off and takes the lead and wins the Grand Prix. It's when he starts a little bit further back, he never seems to come through. Big fight for me is going to be into turn 1, Stephen. Between Massa and Hamilton, there's past history. We're going to see some excitement.
Well, Massa's getting ready, and while we await the cars heading off into the night, we'll give you a chance at the ITV F1 competition.
This weekend we've got a great opportunity, the chance to experience a racing lap of Silverstone in the Santander 2-seater Grand Prix car driven by our very own Martin Brundle. You'll have transport to the circuit, a day at Silverstone with a friend, including lunch, and the experience of a lifetime as the Kings Lynn Crusader drives you around the Silverstone racetrack in the Santander two-seater, a Grand Prix car that has a top speed of 200 miles an hour, 6-speed gearbox, and does 0 to 100 miles an hour in 4 seconds. So to be in with the chance of winning this great prize, courtesy of Santander and Abbey, just answer this question correctly from your prospective chauffeur.
Who was my teammate at Benetton in 1992? A. Michael Schumacher, B. Mika Hakkinen, or C. Damon Hill? Good luck.
To enter, call 090 4959 6789. Calls cost £1 from a BT landline. Calls from other networks may be higher, and from mobiles will be considerably more. Or you can text F1, followed by the answer of A, B or C, to 63337. Text also costs £1 plus one standard network rate message. Digital satellite and cable viewers can enter by pressing their red button now. You can enter for free at itv.com until 5 p.m. Friday, 3rd of October. Entrants must be 18 or over. Phone lines close 5 p.m. Tuesday, the 30th of September. And entries made after the closing time won't be counted, but may still be charged.
Good luck with that. The car's yet to go out into the Singapore night, but we await alongside the Ferrari garage here. What has impressed you most of all about the Ferraris around Singapore?
I think the biggest impression for me is the fact that they just look a lot easier to drive than any other car out there. And when I've looked at the in-car camera laps of Massa, of Hamilton, the work rate between the two of them is considerably different. And that's really going to take its toll over a race distance, Steve. I can assure you, when these guys get out at the end of the distance, they are going to be very tired indeed.
How much of a racing line is there developing out there? How much has the track evolved during the course of the last couple of days?
I mean, it does evolve, and there's more rubber going down. It's a brand new surface, obviously. But the other thing with a street course, it's like driving in the rain to some extent. You're constantly trying to find the optimum line. And that's not because there's rain there, it's because there's so many bumps on the circuit. There's a little line you can thread your way through, and it gives you the best balance and grip in the car.
And Lewis Hamilton has already rather ominously said there'll be no overtaking out there. This race is going to get won and lost in the pit lane.
I think it's going to be down to a lot of tactics. I also feel, though, there's going to be a number of guys making a few errors, and a few mistakes going to get made when they come off the corner, and that may capitalise for the guy trying to go underneath somebody into the next turn. That's what you've got to watch out for.
But it is such a spectacular location, and the car's out there on the circuit now for the first night race in the history of Formula One. How important is pole position, though?
It's going to be important. Front row, you know, the lead down into turn one. It's a long way down into one here on this street track, and it's going to be important that whoever gets out in front stays there. I don't think there is going to be overtaking in terms of performance, so the guy in second is going to have to put huge pressure on, try and make the guy in the lead make a mistake.
Lewis settles into his car. What will be his thoughts coming off the start line? Is this a race to play the percentages?
Well, I think it's something that he's got to try and evaluate while he's out there. If he feels he's got the pace and he feels he's got the confidence, and make the move if he doesn't get out in front. But saying that, he needs to be collecting points. He can't afford to make any other mistakes this season. Massa is definitely on a high. He's turned up here and he's got the job done. Psychologically, he's in front.
And Rob Smedley, there are a few last words for Felipe Massa in the Ferrari garage. It's a great partnership, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good partnership, and I think he had a few words with him yesterday in qualifying just before he went out, so maybe it might have the same effect.
Heikki Kovalainen there in a supporting role now to Lewis Hamilton, and we suppose Kimi Räikkönen is playing the same sort of role alongside Felipe Massa. What will that do for Massa's challenge?
Well, I think you've got to take on board that Räikkönen is right behind in the second row, and I think there's some disappointment in the McLaren camp that Kovalainen is a little stronger than what he should be, because it really hasn't happened for him. Hamilton hasn't got anybody there to back him up, and that's going to be crucial in this World Championship title.
Well, Kovalainen heads out and Felipe Massa fires up behind us, and I don't know why floodlit racing should be so different or so spectacular, but under the lights I think it will be a very special atmosphere out there on the Singapore grid, and we look forward to being out there with Martin Brundle when we return in a couple of minutes. Coming up to 7:40 in the evening in Singapore. They said it could never be done, but floodlit Formula One, floodlit Grand Prix motor racing is about to become a reality. And Mark, this is an astonishing weekend for the sport, isn't it?
It's fantastic. It reminds me of Le Mans, the 24-hour race. And actually, I say a few guys have been talking about, you know, the difference in times, but it doesn't actually relate to the 24 hours in that way, because those guys have to drive throughout the night. But big problem, I think, what the training guy referred to earlier is the fact that you've only got 3 or 4 hours of daylight, and I think that's some of the problem that a lot of people have been trying to get used to.
And the great thing you'll see from those onboard cameras, and we saw it a moment ago from Lewis, you get a shot of the eyes, you get a shot of the fear, the concentration, and a lot more that's going on in the cockpit.
Well, I hope there's no fear there, because that will be a bit of an issue, but you're definitely right with the concentration. Your eyes are very focused. But again, it's one of those problems, driving under the lights. There was some anticipation of maybe some shadowing and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem to have happened. The lights are directly onto the track, and talking to the guys, they're all pretty receptive to it, and it doesn't seem to be a big issue.
When we get that shot of Lewis Hamilton, try to count how many times he blinks during the course of a lap. He will share the front row with pole position man Felipe Massa. Heikki Kovalainen is there on row 3, and he's alongside Sebastian Vettel, who's showing no adverse reaction, it seems, to his Monza heroics of 2 weeks ago. And Toro Rosso and Red Bull, as a result of Vettel's win, locked together in a Constructors' Championship battle. But Vettel and Red Bull's Mark Webber have certainly been enjoying Singapore.
Faster. 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 Much faster. Far out. Yeah, mate, that's the tight one. And the chicane is just where those trees are.
It's special to race at night. I mean, it will be the first time I will participate in a night race. I think it will be something very special for all of us. But in the end, it's a race like every other race as well. So you have 10 points for the first position and points until 8th place. So the target is to do the best job possible and hopefully score some points.
One of these and one of those. Yeah. Oh, one of these. There you go, mate. Push in the middle a bit, then you can wrap it. Oh, he's gonna flick it. He's gonna flick it. Are you gonna eat it? No. Sebastian. Training. Sebastian's coming to Formula One with a real bang, especially in the last few months. Obviously, he's driving very, very well, and his exceptional victory in Monza was a real credit to him. So he knows what I thought. I passed on my congratulations to him from a fellow driver.
It was very important. Obviously, you know, the title of all the magazines was that the youngest winner ever, but to be honest, for me, it's not that important. For me, most important was to win the race and to score 10 points for the championship, for the team as well as for myself. So, you know, it was a great day, a great weekend for us, scoring pole position, and then the first win for the team, for Red Bull, I think was just fantastic. And you know, it's nice when you can give this kind of result back to the team. You know, everybody was extremely happy, and we do not have the same manpower as the big teams and not the same budget, but we are every single member of the team is pushing very hard to, you know, close that gap.
And you'd have forgiven Sebastian Vettel if this weekend had become a bit of an anti-climax, but he's qualified so well, and it was his composure in Monza that was so impressive.
And I think his composure turning up for this weekend, because he's now arrived as a Grand Prix winner, the youngest guy ever, and you have to say, Steve, he's done a fantastic job. He's put the Toro Rosso in a place where we didn't expect it to be, definitely not inside the top 10. And he's got such a balanced pair of shoulders with an old head, so, you know, he's making the most of it.
One change to the grid from qualifying last night. Nick Heidfeld, a 3-place penalty for supposedly impeding Barrichello in the pit lane entrance. We analysed that last night. That seems so harsh.
I don't actually get that one at all. He was in the pit lane, and there's nothing else he could have done. The pit lane was there, he was inside it, and then Barrichello came along. Yeah, he's impeded, but at the same point, there was nothing else he could have done either. So very difficult to work that one out.
So he will now line up on row 5 alongside the Williams of Nakajima and the 2 Williams qualifying in the top 10. That's a big boost for them.
That's a huge boost for them. They're really coming up around the street course. I think the package of the Williams and the Toyota suits the track, but it would be interesting to see how much fuel they got on board in this first stint of the race.
It's Shilpa Shetty gracing the grid. Is that Big Brother, was that?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's packed with celebrities down there on that Singapore grid, and we'll be down there with Martin Brundle in just a moment. And it certainly has got an extra glamour if Formula One actually needed extra glamour.
I think you've got to say it's a comparable one to Monaco, but a little bit extra buzz because of the lights, and it does make it spectacular.
Talking of extra glamour, we can go straight to Martin Brundle.
Hello team, welcome to the grid. Tremendous atmosphere down here. You don't see much of the crowd, you know, because the track is so well illuminated. And take a look at that, wonderful crowd. lot of anticipation and excitement here. They're ready for a Grand Prix. Now take a look also down into turn one. It's a reasonable run down there, and look what awaits the drivers. Don't you just fancy sitting on the front row of the grid with that ahead of you, and what's actually going to be a very tough race. So it's going to be challenging, I think, for the drivers and teams alike. It's going to be a very, very... well, the humidity is high. Probably feels slightly cooler than other evenings, which might give them half a chance. And, of course, we've seen how bumpy it is. So it's going to be a long race, 1 3/4 hours. And they're going to be using quite a lot of different strategies. Let's see if we can have a quick word with... you're still there, Andy. Felipe, 30 seconds. Yeah, top man. So, brilliant pole position. You were so calm on that lap. It just looked perfect from where we were sitting.
Yeah, it was a great pole position for sure. It's always nice to start in a difficult race like that on pole. But we have 61 laps now, which we need to do a similar job.
Now, I notice you've got a clear visor on your helmet. Some are using tinted. Is it a problem with the reflections and that, or...?
No, for sure the clean visor is better for the visibility, so you can see everything, and for the moment it was not a problem.
Bumps and humidity, is everybody going to cope with that, or will it be a factor later in the Grand Prix?
Yeah, it will be difficult for everybody, but you know, hopefully we finish in a good shape.
I'll get out of your face, see who else we can find. And yeah, so there's the challenge then. And with the bumps, I want to try and find one of the engineers or something. The bumps on the track, remember they've got what we call the plank underneath that mustn't wear down. We've seen the things running along the racetrack, and at the end of the race, if they're worn out too much, that's to make sure they don't run too low a ride height. If they don't, if they wear out too much, they'll be disqualified. They've really got to get that absolutely right. Raise the car too much, and you lose the performance. Apparently, Hakkinen is around here somewhere. He's talking to a load of boring TV journalists there, and. ITV, no, it is ITV. How are you doing, Team Renault? Are you the sponsors here this weekend?
We are. Well, we are always on track, but ING, of course, is very happy to be at the Singapore night race. How do you think our logo looks in the dark?
I think your logo looks the same as it does in the daylight, to be honest. It looks fine, but I'm going to move on. Bernie, let's just put into this little arc. What do you think? You pleased? You pleased with it?
Yeah, great. Everything's... No complaints about anything at all. Super.
Any interesting people in your little entourage I could talk to?
Prime Minister.
Oh, you've done me before on Prime Ministers.
Really?
Prime Minister.
Okay.
That's okay, I'm going to get... Good to see you. ITV, we're live to a few million people in the UK at the moment. How do you feel about your Grand Prix? You satisfied with it?
We are feeling very good. It's gone very smoothly. Everything is set up, and we're looking forward to the race.
Well, congratulations. It certainly looks very good. I hope the race works out well. What do you know about the local weather? You must be the specialist here. Are you expecting rain?
All our people put up chilies and onions to prevent the rain from coming down this evening.
Okay, chilies and onions. That's obviously the hot thing to do. Bob Mackenzie here from the Daily Depressed. You're always in the back of my grid walks. Clear off. Right. Ross, any information? We're talking about the plank wear and all of that, the challenges of the race tonight. Do you think that could be an issue?
Bumps are definitely an issue. And I think the trouble is if there's any racing going on and they get offline, then it could be pretty eventful. Going into 7, there's only one line. If you go offline, you're in trouble.
Oh, really? Now, what about brake wear? Are brakes critical?
They're on the limit. It's probably the hardest circuit of the season, so we're going to have to manage them in the race.
And has that caught anybody out? Do you think people have got the right amount of blanking?
I don't know, to be honest. You can see on the Ferrari, they've got pretty big brake ducts on the front. Probably the biggest I've seen this year. But I think we'll manage, but I don't know about other guys.
All right, you're spying down here on the Ferrari. Now, I just want to talk about those, you see what Ross was talking about, the big brake ducts here that channel air through and through a drum, out through the wheel, and we'll keep an eye on what they're going to do. A quick word here with Tamara Ecclestone. Tamara, we talked to your dad. How do you feel? Are you going to take all this over when your dad decides to retire?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm quite up to it, but for now I'm just enjoying the fantastic atmosphere here in Singapore. It's incredible.
Okay, good stuff, isn't it? I've got to throw back now, but nice to see you. Okay, back to you, Steve.
Well done, Martin, an expert on errant prime ministers with strange ideas about the weather, but the main concerns down there, quite clearly the bumps on this circuit. And are they a traditional characteristic of a street circuit?
They are. Normally, I mean, the circuits are pretty bumpy, and that's what it's been like in years gone by. But the problem is, most of these guys are used to a billiard table surface on tracks, and I think they've come here and it shocked them slightly. It's very much like a typical American street course, and you know, to somebody like Sebastian Bourdais, not a big problem, but the others, they've got some problems with it.
Does it suit a particular kind of driver? Because it's almost like driving in the wet, learning the circuit, learning lines.
It's pretty much, you've just got to try and experiment with different lines. You've got to experiment with different braking points, because if you hit the wrong bump at the wrong time, it's going to really cause you a massive problem. And you've seen lots of guys getting into trouble.
Now, the Toyota was a car that was really seeming to struggle with the bumps. They seem to have sorted out. Timo Glock has qualified on row 4, and I think Ted is with him.
Well, Timo, I thought it would probably feel weird, and it does feel a bit weird being here at night. How's the track coming to the grid?
It looks okay. I mean, quite a lot of oil in the last sector, in the last corner for the turn-in, but you should be okay, and I think so far well prepared for the race.
Everything all right with your brakes? They might be an issue for some other people around here.
No, I think we are all right. We are in the right window with the brakes, so we should be okay.
Concern about the bumps and quite clearly concern about the heat in those brakes as well.
Yeah, I think the heat outside of the car and inside the cockpit for the drivers, but braking will be a major problem. Not forgetting they've not been here before. It is the first time, so they've got no data whatsoever to go on. They've all done their simulations, but they're not like the real thing. And if you get a car that starts to run out of brakes, and I've had that situation, it's going to be very dangerous indeed.
The pre-race preliminaries continue. And our singer at the front of the grid ploughs on regardless, and we will do the same, and we will acknowledge how well Williams have performed getting those two cars in the top 10 for the first time in quite some time. First time indeed all season they've had two qualifiers in the top 10. Nico Rosberg will start from row 4, and we can hear from Nico.
Nico, it's a novel approach to keeping cool. Is the towel doing the job for you?
Yeah, no, it's working well, and because it's going to be very, very hot, so it's better to try and keep it as cool as possible before the start. But I think it's going to be a good race. I think it's going to be very tough also for the car because there's just so many bumps and everything, so it's going to be quite tough and have to try and get to the end, obviously. But I think we have a good chance. We're starting 8th, so we have a good chance definitely to score some points.
I know you were a bit disappointed after qualifying yesterday, but I mean, it has been a good session for you so far, both cars in the top 10.
Yeah, of course. I was just disappointed because you see yourself 5th place in Q2, and of course you don't really think about the fact that Lewis is still behind you and people like that Heidfeld. But still, you see yourself in 5th place and you think, okay, come on, this is going to be brilliant stuff. And then 8th on the grid, not quite what I expected, but still, I mean, of course, it's very good.
See you at the finish.
Yeah, thank you.
I remember about 5 minutes before that race in Valencia, we were predicting something like half a dozen safety cars to be seen during the course of the afternoon. Do we feel more confident that this race is going to be broken up?
I think there'll be a safety car at some point, that's for sure. But there's a guy there who's got the biggest disappointment of the weekend so far, because his pace in the Renault during the practice sessions and coming up to qualifying was sensational, and he had the best chance to get in the front row. But things didn't go according to plan. The car broke down, and he's somewhat down the grid.
Never seen him so devastated as his body language when he got out of the car last night.
You know why, Steve? Because he's been driving a car which is pretty much known in performance and a grid slot every race he's got to this season so far. And this one he turned up, and there was a car what worked for him, and all of a sudden he can see himself back at the front where he truly belongs.
So what's going to decide it? Tactics? Pit stops? What?
First corner's going to decide it pretty much, but I think that's going to be down to Lewis and Massa making sure to keep it clean. But it's going to be strategic, and it's going to be who's got the fuel on for the first stint. And if the weather doesn't come into play, it's going to run all the way with those pit stops. They're going to be the major factor in this.
And it's going to be pretty humid, it's going to be pretty warm, and it's going to be pretty tough on those drivers. It's a long race coming up. But you do get the feeling that for the drivers now, all the novelty of this weekend has now sort of worn off. They're firmly locked into a European time zone, most of them. And for them, it's coming up to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, even though darkness has fallen here in Singapore. The street lights will look like daylight. There's the traditional pre-race hug for Lewis Hamilton. There's a race to be won on a very challenging circuit. The start of the Singapore Grand Prix is just a few minutes away. Singapore is a very special place, and the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix is a very special race. Under the lights of the Marina Bay circuit, round 15 of the Formula One World Championship is described by Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix. Not too much evidence of a credit crunch here, as America and Europe drown in a tidal wave of toxic debt. The Asian economy powers on, and nothing symbolises that fact more vividly than this spectacular piece of showmanship. Formula One's first ever night race. This is the Formula One of the 21st century. It's how Hollywood would set the scene for the big race. And of course, ever the visionary, it's Bernie Ecclestone. We have heard from him just on the grid walk a moment ago with Martin. It's Bernie Ecclestone who made it happen and has taken great personal care to every single detail of the way that this weekend has unfolded. Well, the scene is set then. Now comes the main event. Not a title deciding race, but potentially an opportunity for one of the main title contenders to put some daylight between himself and his rivals. They start together on the front row, Massa and Hamilton, as they have in 3 of the last 5 Grand Prix. But this is a circuit where danger lurks in every corner. It's going to be a long race, up to 1 hour 50 minutes, I was told by Pat Simmons of Renault in the simulations. And in this heat and humidity, a physically exhausting race as well. And as you'll be seeing, the cars move around a lot here with the bumps, the curbs and the constant turns. 23 corners on this 3.15 mile circuit. Fatigue is undoubtedly going to be a factor in the second half of the Grand Prix. And as we've heard, brakes are an issue as well.
Radio check, David. Okay, and can you try your drinks bottle as well, please?
Yeah, I would, but small detail. Don't appear to have a drink bottle fitted to the helmet.
Oh dear, David Coulthard forgot to put a drinks bottle into the helmet, so he's going to feel that a little bit later on. You'll notice when the cars go off on the parade lap that quite a lot of them have not got the wheel spinners on, the covers over the wheels. They've wanted to get as much cooling as they possibly can to the brakes. A lot of teams are concerned about the brakes lasting the distance, and we might see what's called a long brake pedal later in the Grand Prix, where drivers finding that the brakes just aren't lasting. That's the controversial chicane at turn 10 that's had the curbs shaved down. When we arrived here, there was what looked like giant overgrown Tic Tacs sticking out of that chicane, and steadily over the course of the last 3 days they have been whittled down. It's certainly one of the danger zones. Turn 7 is another area where a few people have been going off. We've seen quite a lot of drivers escaping down escape roads as well. So a safety car, a strong possibility for this evening's race. But it's certainly a day for Felipe Massa to convince any remaining sceptics that he deserves a seat at Formula One's top table. It's a day for Lewis Hamilton to stay out of danger, Martin.
It is, and he's got to be nervous about that. Kimi Räikkönen starts on the right-hand side of the grid behind Massa. Räikkönen surely Massa's tail gunner now for the rest of the championship. And Kovalainen there back on the grid and in 5th place. Not really in the mix there to help Lewis Hamilton out at the moment. He may be later on in this Grand Prix that I think is going to be extremely challenging all the way through. And I have to say, if I was Lewis, I'd be a touch nervous of having Räikkönen anywhere near me down into turn 1.
Just looking at the second half of the grid, the 2 Red Bulls together on row 7. Nelson Piquet and Fernando Alonso. He was at his best this weekend. He's been all through the season. The car is at the best it's been all year. And yet, in the second part of qualifying, unfortunately for him, his high-pressure fuel system failed, and he starts 15th on the grid. He could very easily have been on the front 2 rows of the grid. It's now a year since his last Grand Prix victory. You'll have noticed there's no Giancarlo Fisichella on the grid. He had 2 accidents yesterday, one in practice and another one in qualifying. They've had to change quite a lot of parts on that car since qualifying, as a result of which he starts this race from the pit lane. McLaren seem confident on their brakes, Martin. They've got the wheel covers on, but quite a few other teams you can see have taken them off.
At least we should see those brake discs glowing at 1,000 degrees as they go around the racetrack. But yeah, covers off the Renault there too. It's debatable as to whether you're really, if that's not a significant change to the car to take those off. Gives you a performance advantage in qualifying and then helps cool the brakes a little bit during the race. The green flag lap then, and Hamilton on the harder tyres, as is Kovalainen there.
So apparently this is the most graining they've seen on the tyres since Canada last year. And that is the little balls of rubber that get on the surface. Between laps 2 and 7, the tyres are graining up. Then that excess rubber comes off the surface of the tyre and starts giving the drivers a lot more grip. They've got to go through that phase, and that's particularly on the softer tyre with the white stripe.
There's a look at the Drivers' Championship situation going into this Grand Prix. 1 point the difference between Hamilton and Massa. 40 points available between now and the end of the season. And don't rule out Robert Kubica as well. A big win for him, with Hamilton and Massa not finishing, would put him right in the hunt as well. An amazing effort this year by Robert Kubica in the BMW. You can see that they've cut down on development really through the summer, and although the pace has dropped off of the BMW, he's still put it up there and still continues to get great grid slots and great points, and he'd certainly be right at the top of my list of the top 10 drivers of 2008. An awesome performance from Robert Kubica, who always finds his best on tracks where braking is important, and particularly on street circuits. That's the situation in the constructors. That could change today. Just 5 points between Ferrari and McLaren Mercedes. Now, interestingly, Martin, when they drove off, it looked like everybody was going with the harder of the 2 Bridgestone compound tyres, the one without the white stripes on it, except, I think, Fernando Alonso. Now, Alonso down in 15th place. If he just went full of fuel, went for a dull sort of one-stop strategy, nothing much perhaps will be achieved. I wonder, looks like he's on the soft tyre. I wonder if he's going to really attack here. His strategy is open to him. He can do whatever he wants because he's outside the top 10. And I just wonder if we don't need to keep an eye on Fernando Alonso coming through the field in the early stages.
Yeah, he's driving well. The car is, in fact, I think Alonso's driving brilliantly at the moment. The car looked really hooked up. He should be on the first 2 rows of the grid without any doubt. And he could use a rather bizarre strategy to give himself some clear air. But optimal 3-stop here is lap 18. I think whether they're 2-stopping or 3-stopping, virtually all the key runners will stop before that and then decide and see how the race looks, see how the track is shaping up, and whether they make a longer stint and turn it into a 2-stopper or carry on 3-stopping through the Grand Prix and managing tyre wear, brake condition. Really, if you carry a lot of fuel, it puts even more strain on the brakes, of course.
No rain expected during the race. It was one of the big question marks about this night race. Anyone who's spent any time in this part of the world knows it can rain pretty hard at night here. And so with such force, you wouldn't actually be able to start the Grand Prix. The rain is so heavy. But luckily, touch wood, throughout this weekend, we haven't seen any, apart from in the middle of the night on Thursday, a thunderstorm which sounded like a bomb going off. Absolutely awe-inspiring.
That's about how it's going to sound when 20 cars with over 700 horsepower rev up and get ready for the start of this Grand Prix, echoing amongst the walls in the grandstands.
So Fisichella, remember, starting from the pit lane. There is Alonso with those white stripe Bridgestone tyres, indicating he is almost certainly going to be running quite a light fuel load, and watch out for him attacking in the early stages of this Grand Prix. Franz Tost, team principal, along with Gerhard Berger of Toro Rosso, of course, the winners of the last Grand Prix at Monza. Let's focus our attention then. The first ever Formula One night race is go! Massa on the left, Hamilton on the right. Watch out for Raikkonen attacking Hamilton. He goes to the inside of Hamilton. Hamilton's seen him now. He comes across. Looks like everyone's coming down to first. Someone's cut the first chicane. It's one of the BMWs. I think it might well be Heidfeld, but it looks like everyone's safely through turn 1. Massa away in the lead.
Great lead for Massa then. Hamilton had to go defensive and keep his eye on Raikkonen. And Kovalainen is passed by the Toyota there of Glock. So a poor start there, I think, for Kovalainen. Vettel looks well up, but great run for Massa. Immediate confidence. There's some overtaking going on down into that turn 7. Kovalainen knows he needs to repair that damage straight away. The Toyota comes back at him. Into turn 8. Can Kovalainen do the same? Return the compliment into 9? No, he can't. Great driving there from Glock.
Yeah, it's the harem-scarum part on the opening lap where there's always a chance to overtake before things settle down into rhythm. This traffic-calming chicane here at turn 10 is one of the things that strings the field out a little bit. It's one of the reasons why overtaking is hard here. And the reason why they do it is because of this Anderson Bridge coming up. And, well, you've just missed it, actually, but there's a very narrow bridge. They want them to go across there in single file. As Massa leads, Hamilton second, Raikkonen third, Kubica fourth, Vettel is up into 5th place, Glock is up into 6th, Kovalainen 7th, 8th Heidfeld, 9th Trulli and 10th Rosberg, with Nakajima down to 11th, Alonso already up into 12th place from 15th, Jenson Button down to 14th, David Coulthard 15th.
Well, it's a 61-lap race of 1 3/4 minutes per lap, so it's not difficult to work out. The race will be well over 1 3/4 hours, so settle in for the long haul. They have to concentrate every metre of the way. It's bumpy, which is not a criticism, it's great. We love to see the cars moving around. We want to see these drivers doing something that's special, that's electric, something that will pay to watch and enjoy. And I have to say, they're really earning their money out there this evening, without any doubt. This is going to be a phenomenal challenge of mind and of body.
Kazuki Nakajima there in the Williams. It's been a stronger weekend for Williams, both of them qualifying inside the top 10. There is the man to watch, Fernando Alonso on the attack. He's up behind Nakajima now in his Renault and looking for a place to pass. And if there is a place to pass here, he will find it. Nakajima is heavy with fuel, and it looks to me as though Alonso is pretty light. There's a lot of debris on the circuit, leaves and all kinds of other things. The autumn leaves falling here in Singapore. That's the changes off the grid. It doesn't show what Alonso's been doing, though. And they seem to be going quite slowly behind Jarno Trulli. 9th place Toyota of Jarno Trulli has got a bit of a queue behind him.
So Alonso's made up 3 places already. He's in P12 behind Nakajima. And that is what you're looking at now. If we're right, and he is on a lighter fuel load for a short first stint, he ought to be able to have a chance of making his way through here with a car that appeared very fast until a very simple fuel line came away and dropped him out of qualifying 2.
And it seems fairly clear who the heavy cars are here. Jarno Trulli and Kazuki Nakajima both look like they're carrying a reasonable amount of fuel. Everybody else seems to be getting away from them in front. Nico Rosberg is in that mix as well, behind Jarno Trulli. So the 2 Williams behind the Toyota, and there's Alonso, who has to attack on the strategy he's chosen here, if indeed that is the way he's gone. Meanwhile, Hamilton sets a new fastest first sector, and Massa responds with the fastest middle sector. The gap between them, just over a second.
So close.
You need to pass Trulli, otherwise it'll be the end of the day.
That means that Trulli's carrying more fuel, and Rosberg is on a 2-stop strategy, so he has to get past him. That's what that message is all about. And obviously we know that Nakajima's carrying more fuel. Alonso's aware he too has to get past him.
Well, you may wonder how another team knows that confidential information, but it's all about analysing data and sound traces from the engines and all sorts of ways they can tell of how much fuel they're carrying on another car. I'll get into that a bit later as we see a replay of the start. The front were very well behaved. Back a bit, it was all 2 and 3 abreast. People cutting the first corner, don't think they'll get penalised for that. And it's quite a complex layout for the first 3 corners of a Grand Prix, and they negotiated it well. Here's a replay then from another angle of that, and it's all going off behind, isn't it? It's street circuit mentality. Your best chance to overtake is the first lap.
Looked like Alonso was one of the cars behind Heidfeld that cut across that first chicane and may have gained a place or 2 as a result of it. That's Kubica battling with Kovalainen, and Kovalainen getting a little nudge there from the BMW driver. That's why Vettel and Glock were able to get in front. Kovalainen and Kubica making contact there. And at the front, meanwhile, Felipe Massa trying to pull away from Lewis Hamilton. He's now faster than Hamilton in both of the first 2 sectors. The gap a second, 1.2. But they're dropping Raikkonen, Martin. 3.5 seconds already after just 2 laps.
Yeah, Raikkonen's in a different race, it seems. I don't know if he's on a different fuel load, but sector times, the lap is split into 3 parts. The first one around here is around 28.5 seconds for the cut-off point, 42 seconds for the middle sector, and 37 seconds for the end of the lap. So we can tell the progress of the cars through the lap rather than having to wait until the end of each lap to see what any differences are. But Massa, new fastest lap of the race, he pulled half a second out on that lap in its entirety over Lewis Hamilton, and he's now 6 seconds clear. They're moving to lap 4. Massa 6 seconds clear of teammate Raikkonen.
Well, some of that may be fuel, but even so, Raikkonen, as you say, is in a different race. As sailing up the inside goes Nico Rosberg. He misses the apex of the second corner, and that allows the Toyota to get back. This is a battle between Jarno Trulli and Nico Rosberg. And as we heard before from the Williams engineer, Rosberg has to get past this Toyota, which is carrying a lot more fuel than him. Otherwise, his strategy for the day will be ruined.
Yeah, he's got a lighter car, as you say, and he's at this phase of the race, he's a lot faster. He just can't find a way through. Oh, and Nakajima with a horrible lock-up behind him, and his front tyres will feel and look like 50-pence pieces now. And the problem then is every time you lock your brakes again, they always stop. The tyre stops in the same place, and at 190 miles an hour the vibration sets in and you can barely see where you're going.
Well, it wasn't quite enough for Alonso to take advantage, though. I'm sure he's very frustrated, the Spaniard, in the cockpit of that Renault. He knows that he should be fighting at the front with Raikkonen and Kubica rather than being here with the Williams. But this is lap 4 then. Massa, now that his tyres are fully up to temperature, seems to have about half a second in hand over Lewis Hamilton. That's the move by Rosberg.
That was a good move. Just a pity the corner wasn't about 50 metres further away. That would have been a sensational one. He's really committed into that. He nearly kept it together. But he won't have to yield anywhere because clearly he lost the place anyway. But very brave stuff from young Nico Rosberg, who knows he needs to get on with it. Otherwise, later on this evening...
Okay, so truly in front of Nico is heavy, so we need to overtake him.
Yeah, well, what they're saying, I guess, is if Nico gets through, you've got to follow him. So truly, it sounds a cruel thing to say, but Rosberg with another look up the inside, but truly, basically, is a bit of a mobile chicane with a heavy load of fuel, relatively heavy load of fuel. But of course, Trulli doesn't want to let them through. There's no good in saying, well, I'll just let them through while I'm heavy, because he needs to stay ahead of them later on in the race. He needs to disadvantage other people as much as taking the best advantage out of his strategy.
That's exactly right. It's all about track position. You can see the cars bottoming out, the sparks flying up from the titanium in the skid blocks underneath. Interestingly, when they went across the start-finish line a minute ago, I noticed the Ferrari was sending up more sparks than the McLaren, looking as though the Ferrari is perhaps running a little bit closer to the ground than the McLaren is. No, a lot of bumps here. I know quite a few teams are concerned about the dampers, whether or not they'll last the 61 laps. It's a heck of a shock they're getting from all these high-frequency bumps on this street circuit in Singapore. Meanwhile, the Trulli train grows ever longer. We've got Jarno Trulli, Rosberg, Nakajima, Alonso, Webber, Button, Coulthard, Bourdais, all in the Trulli train.
And that train is 5 seconds per lap slower than Felipe Massa, who leads Hamilton by 2 seconds on lap 5, a further 7 seconds ahead of Raikkonen. That's the kind of fuel load and poor pace that therefore Trulli has at the moment, and that's why the Williams boys are really urging their drivers to dispatch him ASAP.
This has not worked out very well at all for Fernando Alonso, who wanted to go on the attack and is being thwarted. He is in 12th place. I mentioned Jenson Button is in that train as well, and David Coulthard, 14th and 15th at the moment. Let's turn our attention back to the front of the grid. Massa, look at the sparks flying out from the bottom of that Ferrari. You see less sparks coming off the bottom than the McLaren. Interesting to see how that evolves over the course of the Grand Prix. But what we've seen so far through practice is that the Ferrari once again seems to be slightly more consistent at a slightly higher rhythm in race pace. We've got yellow flags, we've got debris on the circuit. Massa manages to avoid it. So too Hamilton. Looks like a brake duct, is it?
Yeah, a bit of front wing or brake duct, isn't it? But Lewis a little bit clumsy over the 12 and 13 turns there. And Rosberg still desperately trying to find a way past this Toyota that's on a completely different program to him, albeit in the same place of the race so far.
When you're driving in a situation like this, when you're street fighting effectively, is there a different tactic to how you overtake them when you're on a fast-flowing open circuit?
Yeah, you've just got to be inventive. You've got to distract the driver in front of you and then just seize your opportunity when it presents itself. You may be another 20 or 30 laps getting that chance. And but what's happening now, often when you come up behind a driver quickly, you can get past him and surprise him. But once he settles in and knows your strengths and his weaknesses, he can start to cover them off. And Mark Webber clearing that piece just about out of the way, but it bounces back into the line of fire, unfortunately.
Didn't break, though. Critically, a lot of debris on this circuit. As you can see, lots of leaves and crisp packets and what have you. But watch out, none of those get in the radiators. That can send the temperatures even higher than they already are. Massa trying to drop Hamilton now. This is lap 7. He's 3 seconds ahead. Raikkonen is adrift, 5 seconds behind Hamilton. Kubica staying in touch with the second Ferrari. He's in 4th place. Vettel is going extremely well in 5th. Then it's Glock 6th, 7th Kovalainen, and 8th Heidfeld. This is lap 8 of the first ever night race in Singapore. They're trying to make it the place you don't just pass through, but a place you want to come and visit. I have to say, it's been a tremendous weekend. They welcomed us wonderfully here, and this night race thing is absolutely tremendous. This is Fernando Alonso attacking Jarno Trulli. Nico Rosberg has got past the Toyota of Jarno Trulli, and so too has Kazuki Nakajima, from the looks of things. And now it's Alonso's turn, so Trulli has dropped down into 11th place. And here's how Rosberg did it.
Yes, it's down into turn 7, which is extremely bumpy offline, and that is why the brakes lock up there. It's really not a good territory, but he managed to keep it all together. Great move there. And Massa runs over a piece of debris that gets wedged in what they call the T-tray at the front. Now, that'll affect the grip at the front of the car. I don't think it'll affect the cooling.
Well, it's interesting because his lap times haven't been affected so far. He was doing 1:47.3s before he hit that piece of debris. It's now 1:46.9, so he's 0.4 of a second faster with the piece of debris than he was before.
Yeah, they can rescue that out of there at the end of the at the first pit stop. It's jammed in at 180 miles an hour, so presumably if they can get it out. And Fernando Alonso now fancies a run around the outside of turn 6 into that very bumpy area for 7, and he won't need to brake that late because he's already got the overtake done. And interestingly, Raikkonen is now very much coming alive as Webber shapes up for a go at Trulli as well. Kimi Raikkonen has started to close in on Hamilton and Massa now.
Well, it looks like Jarno Trulli has done the organisers a favour. Everyone was saying it was impossible to overtake here, but by running a heavy car, and the Toyota doesn't much like the bumps anyway, so he's a bit slow here, giving a few people an opportunity to make a passing move and certainly bring this race alive. There's not too much overtaking going on at the front. They're quite strung out now. Massa 3 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Raikkonen, as you say, starting to come alive a bit. The last 2 laps he's been quicker than the 2 cars in front of him. He's just set the new fastest lap of the race, a 1:46.1, as we take another look at that pass of Alonso's. Kubica's 6 seconds behind him, and then Vettel a further 6 seconds behind.
Yes, that's a Jarno Trulli who's been rather beaten up by the 2 Williams. And now Alonso with his fuel strategy. Kimi Raikkonen then, 1:46.1. The quickest times we've seen in practice were low 1:44s, so it's a pretty hot pace out there considering it's the Grand Prix and they're in the middle of a stint, but with a reasonable amount of fuel on board. So the track has been remarkably consistent all the way through. Normally these tracks they're a moving, living thing. They come, you get more rubber down, more grip, the drivers tune their cars and their style into it. We haven't seen any of that. It's been quite strange in that respect.
Certainly strange for a street circuit that normally improves, as you say, a great deal over the course of Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Rubber going down on them. There you can see how Raikkonen is coming up through the ranks, and his pace is now the hottest out there. He's 4.3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. He's starting to drop Robert Kubica as well. 6.2 seconds now, the gap back to the Polish driver in the BMW. Vettel holding on in 5th, and it's Glock 6th, Kovalainen 7th, Heidfeld 8th. And we get our first look at this onboard camera in Lewis Hamilton's car, and just check out his eyes. They're the size of saucers, and if you can see him blink, you're a better man than I am. Fantastic action shot, the study and concentration. 23-year-old Lewis Hamilton at speed at night on the streets of Singapore. Ted.
Down in the McLaren garage, James, and all seems quite happy down here. Lewis has stabilised the gap at 3.3 seconds. They don't want it to get any longer than that because they think that he can go at least 2 laps longer than Felipe Massa in the first stint. But any more than that, and Lewis will really be in trouble if he wants any chance of getting by. But just quickly on the Ferrari guys, they've been practicing clearing debris from under the car. I watched them do it this morning, and they seem quite good at it. They'll have to do when the time comes.
Well, the pace has got a lot quicker. Like Massa, before he ran over that debris, as I said before, was doing 47.7s. He's now doing 46.2s, so going substantially faster as this race goes on. The pace is getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah, as they burn the fuel off, the fuel cost them 0.4 of a second per 10 kilos of fuel per lap. So as they burn that off, they naturally will go faster. Raikkonen beginning to push very hard, as you saw for yourself, and taking 2 3/10 of a second per sector out of Lewis Hamilton from time to time. The gap down to 3.9 now, and he'll begin to see quite clearly the rear wing and gearbox of that McLaren. There's Hamilton, there's Raikkonen playing catch-up. Hamilton just about holding the lead in the 3 seconds at the moment. And you have to say the McLaren dances around, moves around more than the Ferrari. The Ferrari looks a more settled, more predictable car around this racetrack.
There's Raikkonen, not scored any points for the last 3 Grand Prix, and he's had a very tough season, the reigning world champion. Part of the reason for that is because his qualifying performances haven't been strong enough, so he's been starting the Grand Prix down the field, getting held up behind slower cars, and not really able to use the speed of that Ferrari until the closing stages of the Grand Prix. Here this weekend, starting up at the front, he's got some clear air, and he'll certainly be a factor as this Grand Prix goes on. Ferrari certainly targeting a 1-2 finish here to give Massa as big a gap as they can give him in the drivers' standings going into the last 3 Grand Prix. New fastest lap from Raikkonen, 1:45.764. First man to dip into the 1:45s. He's on fire.
Yeah, 7/10 faster than Hamilton. Whatever that graining phase or comfort level Raikkonen needed, as we often see in Grand Prix this year, it's normally the second half of a Grand Prix where Raikkonen comes alive. Well, it's the second half of the first stint where he's really been flying. Now, the earliest stops, what do we think? Lap 16, something like that for Massa. I think Alonso might be in a touch earlier than that, but and they're all motoring along really nicely now. They've parked Jarno Trulli. Rosberg, Nakajima, Alonso some 4 seconds a lap faster now. They've got past Trulli.
Hot work down in the pits. Air temperature 28 degrees, even though it's 25 past 8 in the evening here in Singapore. And of course, quite a lot of heat is coming from these lights which we've got all the way around the track. We've got something like 1,800 lights illuminating this track, 2,000 watts each. And it's quite a staggering effort of Valerio Maioli, the Italian company that's put these lights in, commissioned by the Singaporean government. There's 6.8 kilometres of aluminium frame holding them up, and 154 kilometres of electric cable to run the current along. They're all powered by generators, incidentally, not taking power from the Singapore mains. We've got a bunch of generators. If one of them fails, it'll knock out 1 in 4 lights, so it would take quite something for all the lights to go out. On board with the McLaren into turn 1.
All looks sweet and smooth through there. Look how fast he's falling back from Massa and falling into the clutches of Kimi Raikkonen. He's now just 2.6 seconds ahead of third-place man Raikkonen and lost another 6/10 on the previous lap. Ferrari are really beginning to settle into this track, and Lewis hasn't got an answer right now.
I tell you, another problem for McLaren is Heikki Kovalainen, who started up at the front of the grid in 5th place and has dropped down to 7th, having been passed by Vettel and Glock. Well, he's not exactly tucked into the gearbox of Glock. He's 3.5 seconds behind him and lapping in the low 1:47s. Hamilton in the same car is 1.5 seconds a lap faster than him. So Kovalainen having another one of those days, unfortunately, as in comes Alonso. He did go aggressive. It didn't really count for much, and now he's going to slip back behind all the traffic. A lot of cars that are going to be heavy with fuel, and Alonso gets the sinking feeling. Long middle stint for him.
Yeah, a lot of fuel went in there, and he's got to hope he's got some clear air now to at least pump half a dozen laps in before he reaches the back of the main midfield, as it were. And I don't think it's worked well. That truly getting ahead and staying ahead cost Alonso a lot of time.
It certainly did, because in front of Trulli there's an enormous gap now. Rosberg and Nakajima 20 seconds clear, and that's the gap in which Alonso wanted to do his work and was not able to. Renault employing, not for the first time this season, the theory that if you do exactly the same thing as everybody else from 15th on the grid, then you'll probably finish 14th at best. But if you try something different, you never know. And it brought them a podium in Hockenheim with Piquet. It's called game theory. It's all part of mathematical analysis that these very clever people that Formula One teams now employ. Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, James, it was worth the go, but Pat Simmons deciding that that's it. That's probably the end of the three-stop experiment, and it was down to those soft tyres. They faded, they grained quite considerably, and Alonso radioing back saying the car was a right handful. So Pat Simmons, we think, took the decision then to switch him back on a two-stop. He doesn't want to get burned again and maybe take advantage of a later safety car.
Yeah, it could work out well from him. He was 11th when he came in. If he can do a good race, and he's got the least desirable tyres out of the way, they want to get those super softs done because they're not as good as these ones without the white stripes, and they have to run both during the Grand Prix, as which Toro Rosso's that Bourdais getting it wrong on the Marina Bay front.
Yeah, that's 16th place, or he was, Sebastian Bourdais. Looks like he may have lost a place to Rubens Barrichello there in the Honda. Barrichello not having such a good weekend as Jenson Button, who's been really on it this weekend. There is Bourdais, an elegant turn. He, of course, is the only driver in the field to have driven a single-seater at night. He won 2 races over in the United States, where they have been racing single-seaters at night for some time in the IRL series, and he won twice at Houston. So he's the only one with experience of this kind of situation. Of course, Houston is a very different kettle of fish from Singapore.
Nick, you need to push hard now to get a gap early before the stop.
Yeah, the hard work is not done yet, even though he's got in front of him. Trulli, we believe, is only going to stop once to Rosberg's twice, so he's lost quite a lot of time behind him in the early stages. These are the critical laps now for Nico Rosberg.
Yeah, he's 24 seconds ahead of Trulli. And he needs probably a bit more than that, doesn't he, for a stop?
Yeah, you need 20 seconds plus whatever your stationary time is, so he's probably going to be stationary for about 8 or 9 seconds, so he's still got some work to do here. Also with some work to do is Lewis Hamilton, because Kimi Raikkonen once again half a second a lap quicker than him on that last lap, and you can see all the unburnt fuel in the exhaust pipes there of the Ferrari on the overrun, just giving little flames coming out the back. All these things you don't see in daylight necessarily on a Grand Prix. These cars look absolutely magnificent under lights.
Ferrari's faster. The Ferrari's just a faster car. Lewis is.
Oh, big crash! That's Nelson Piquet. And that is likely, I would have thought, to bring out a safety car. Is it? It's off the line. There's the situation. It's a difficult place to recover a car from. The critical thing is he okay? Webber and Coulthard are pitted.
If they get in before the...
Sorry, guys. Had a little outing.
That's the driver speaking there. A lot of people diving in the pits. There's the safety car. Webber and Coulthard came in just before the safety car. So did Rubens Barrichello. This is lap 15. So anybody who was running a shortish stint, and Massa will have to keep all eyes on him, because the paddock information was that he was running about 15 laps into the Grand Prix. So remember, the pit lane is not open until the safety car tells it it's okay to. That's what happened with Piquet anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a mess, but it's a relatively minor incident in terms of the energy level and the way that the car stopped. There'll be a lot of pieces all over the track. Now, if you get in early before they close the pit lane, there's an oil fire going on at the back there. That'll need an extinguisher. But if you get in early, you can get your pit stop out of the way. Then the pits are closed. Ted's down there.
And apparently at the end of that radio transmission, we heard Nelson said he's okay, and we can see him getting out of the car now. He's good. Received pretty big bump on the head, though. I think the medical guys will want to take a look at him. Excellent chance. Lucky boys at Red Bull. They got both cars out and switched them to 2 stoppers. Fueled them pretty heavily, but bad luck for McLaren. They didn't manage to get their cars in, and now it's the safety car, so they'll be in trouble. Rosberg also in. Will he fuel because he has to? Yes, he will. Yeah, that's a penalty.
This is the critical thing now in this race. Anybody who is due a pit stop is going to be really sweating. They're going to have to come in and take a penalty, and it looks like McLaren are ready for one of their 2 cars. I'm not sure which one it is, but this could be quite a turning point of the race. We believe it's for Lewis Hamilton, so if he has to come in before the pit lane is open, he's going to get a penalty. This is lap 17 of the Singapore Grand Prix, the first ever night race. Rubens Barrichello had made a pit stop before the safety car and has stopped out on the circuit. The safety car has been deployed for an accident involving Nelson Piquet, and Rubens just runs over one of the marshals at very slow speed, who's got a slight limp. I don't blame him as a result of that. We've seen a couple of cars forced to pit under the safety car. You're not allowed to come in until the pit lane is open. And at the moment, we believe that Rosberg and Kubica are both men who've come into the pits and had to make a stop, because if they didn't, they would have run out of fuel, and they will have to get a 10-second penalty as a result of that. All the other pit crews are waiting expectantly to turn their drivers around as soon as the signal is given that the pit lane is open. That's the remains of Nelson Piquet's Renault. The order here in Singapore at the moment, behind the safety car, is Massa for Ferrari, Hamilton McLaren, Raikkonen for Ferrari. Kubica has made a stop, so he's dropped down. So Sebastian Vettel is up into 4th place in the Toro Rosso. Then it's Timo Glock in the Toyota, Heikki Kovalainen in the McLaren, Nick Heidfeld in the BMW, and Kazuki Nakajima in the Williams at the moment. Nico Rosberg, as I say, has made a stop. So too Robert Kubica. And taking advantage of the accident before the safety car came out, the 2 Red Bulls of Webber and Coulthard. Keep an eye on them. They got it in just at the right moment.
Pit lane is now open. They can pit if they can get around on the fuel that they've got. Some of them could switch them onto 4 cylinders and just literally tick over. And this will play into the hands of Alonso, and the Red Bull anticipated the safety car and pitted their 2 cars.
Kubica's just refueled, the pit lane was closed, we'll get a penalty.
As will several others. Now, it's luck of the draw. If you happen to need fuel when the safety car goes out and you can't pit, then you'll take a penalty. It's a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. It's not 10 seconds added to your time, as Massa pits. It's a 10-second stop-and-go penalty in your pit box. Hamilton in 2. Hamilton made it on the fuel, as did Raikkonen. And that's a massive penalty to take, of course. But Charlie White in the FIA said, well, put more fuel in then. And
oh no, that's a big mistake. Massa's gone. Not for the first time. Ferrari's lighting system and their release. He's taken the hose with him as well, I think. They've got the spare hose ready, and that is the race leader, Felipe Massa, who has made a catastrophic mistake here in Singapore, and it could well cost him the Grand Prix. Hamilton goes back out again. He will be the race leader when everyone else has made a stop. Ferrari are punching the tyres in frustration. It's happened again at Ferrari.
Well, Massa's down there. If they take the fuel hose off, he can go out, surely, at least joining the snake. I don't understand. He's not past the white line, so they can work on the car. I don't understand why they're not running down there and just pulling that fuel hose off and sending him out. Surely, there we go, they're the other end of the pit lane. Surely, I mean, he actually won't lose that much time in that respect if they just pull that out, and Ted's down there.
And the guys are having a 100-metre sprint, more like a 500-metre sprint. And you can just hear the guys in the McLaren garage cheering them on like it was the 100-metre final in Beijing, shouting at the Ferrari guys, go on, get down there. Of course, they're absolutely loving it. We'll wait to see the replay before we blame either the automatic system or Felipe Massa himself. But, well, he's losing time. He'll rejoin at the back of the pack.
Yeah, they can just pull that out and send him, as long as it hasn't damaged the car. Oh, is it stuck on there? So that's why they obviously did the big pull. Give it a twist or something. That's going to come out surely. But how bizarre. It looked a bit reticent to come out of the sister car as well, didn't it, of Raikkonen's? But so maybe that's had a tweak, obviously, as he pulled away. And now the fast filler.
The time is going. Off we go. Well, it won't have helped, of course. The force of driving away with it still attached would have probably bent it on a little bit. It's extremely hard to say whose fault that was, or whether indeed it was just that it wouldn't release, that being the problem. It only will find out, of course, as the race goes on and afterwards. And don't forget, you can get all the latest on itvf1.com website after the Grand Prix. That's the situation. Massa driving away, knocking one of his mechanics over, being released right into the path of, well, going straight into the path of a Force India car, Adrian Sutil. That's ironic.
Right, he's got a green light. He's got a green light, and he's into the path of another car. Massa did nothing wrong there. Look, the green light came on, and they weren't even trying to release the fuel.
So it's exactly what happened in Valencia. And guess what? It was Sutil in Valencia who was released into the path of as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And SingTel once again doing a great job not to have a pit lane incident. So will he get another penalty for that anyway, Felipe Massa? And Ted's down there.
The other penalty would be unsafe release into the pit lane, but since the chief mechanic didn't release him, and as the Ferrari guys walked past me, and thank goodness that this Intertechnique fuel hose actually has a clean brake system where it meets the fuel rig itself, but they're carrying the fuel hose like some big snake right down the pit lane in front of me. But that must be that the fueler actually pressed his little green button, which means that he's finished. He's not meant to press it, of course, until the rig is off. But another casualty of this system. And how long will Ferrari persist with this semi-automatic pit lane traffic light system?
I reckon it'll be in the bin at the back of the pits here after the race, Ted, to be honest, because that's costing them a world championship. But Massa, luckily for him, the pace car hadn't come around again, so he can just cruise up to the back of this snake of cars. And how has that mixed the race up, or what? The other problem they've got, James, is at the next fuel stop, and there will be another fuel stop for Massa, what is the state of his refueling nozzle on the car? It must be damaged, surely.
Well, it took a lot to get the hose off, didn't it? So, as you say, I mean, the sheer force with which he drove away, 750 horsepower being released. Nico Rosberg is shown as being the race leader at the moment as they follow on behind the safety car. Not a lot of people will be too happy to see Jarno Trulli second at this stage. Fisichella, who is on a one-stopper, presumably is up in third place. And that's why the one-stoppers work. When you get a safety car in the early stages of a Grand Prix, we had the same situation in Montreal, if you remember, and that's how it works out for them. But of course Rosberg is going to get a penalty for coming into the pits when the pit lane was closed, and so is Robert Kubica, who is currently in fourth place. But what about Fernando Alonso, who is currently fifth?
So Nico, you've got Trulli, Fisichella directly behind you, have not stopped yet. You need to push as hard as you can when the safety car comes in. Get everything up to temperature as much as you can. Everything looks okay at the moment. If you can put more engine into the tyres, that would be good.
Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. The lights are off on the safety car, which is the indication to the drivers following it. So Rosberg, Trulli, Fisichella, Kubica, Alonso 5th, Webber 6th, Bourdais 7th, Coulthard 8th, Hamilton 9th. The two Red Bulls having pitted, remember, before the safety car. That's got them up there. 6th and 8th, 6th and 8th.
And Alonso too, on his strategy, he pitted. So when this all sorts itself out, it seems to me Alonso's effectively going to be leading the Grand Prix, isn't he?
He's certainly the one in the strongest position. He must be smiling after all the frustrations he's had so far. The green flag is out. The race is resumed here in Singapore with Nico Rosberg in the Williams leading Jarno Trulli second in the Toyota, Fisichella third for Force India, Kubica fourth, but he's going to get a penalty. Fifth, Alonso, who will want to dispatch the cars in front of him as quickly as possible. Webber, Coulthard, Hamilton in 8th place, who now knows that his main championship rival, Felipe Massa, is 18th and last and probably carrying a damaged car.
Yeah, Fisichella, Trulli and Fisichella second and third haven't pitted yet, of course. So they're at him. Oh, and there's, I think there's Mark Webber at the front of the pack there into turn 7, locking up. But no problem, made the corner. Somebody's out wide, Toro Rosso.
I think it's Vettel, isn't it? Yeah. Vettel's lost ground there.
Yeah, it's hurt him badly. There's Kovalainen, who's down in 14th at the moment. He did eventually pit, but luckily Hamilton and Raikkonen and Massa had enough fuel to get themselves to the pit open situation, as I said. And there's Massa at the back of the field. He is plumb last of the runners, which is 18 now. Barrichello stopped. We think they didn't get any fuel in the car. And of course Piquet, who started the whole safety car malarkey by reversing his Renault into the wall.
Let's not forget about Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari. He was third in the opening stint. He is now 16th. 2 places behind Heikki Kovalainen. There's a Force India of Adrian Sutil between them. Of course, Raikkonen came in the aftermath of that pit chaos at Ferrari, and so he lost time there as well.
So let's just understand here. Rosberg leads, but we're pretty sure he'll get a penalty for coming in while the pit lane was closed. Trulli second, he's yet to pit. Fisichella third, he's yet to pit. Kubica fourth. He'll get a penalty for refueling when he was not allowed to. The penalty is go into the pits, stop at your own pit box for 10 seconds and coast down the pit lane at 50 miles an hour you're limited to. So effectively, Alonso 5th, Webber 6th, Coulthard 7th are going to end up P1, 2 and 3.
That's absolutely right. The 10-second penalty is in addition to the time it takes, of course, to come into the pit lane, which is 20 seconds. So what it actually costs you is half a minute, and that's a heck of a long time to be giving away in the middle of a Grand Prix. So, as you say, Alonso is the one in the pound seats at the moment. Hamilton will have a wry grin about that. He will be aiming for the podium. Of course, he'll be aiming now to try and win this race. He is only 3 places behind Fernando Alonso, and this race, literally, is anybody's.
It is now, and Hamilton has now, because of the safety car situation, and because Red Bull anticipated that there would be a safety car and pitted both their cars, they'd really got nothing to lose, frankly. It is that's what's put them up the front. What have we got going on here? We've got a Ferrari and Massa frustrated then in the final 2 turns where he was so supremely confident in qualifying, and there he goes. It's just understeered itself into the runoff area of turns 23 and 24.
You know why he's frustrated? He's tucked up behind Sebastian Bourdais, and he was 7 seconds slower than the race leader on that lap. He is losing time hand over fist, and of course he's lost track position as well. So poor old Felipe Massa. It looks as though it was a Ferrari system problem, not a Felipe Massa problem, that caused him to drive off with the fuel hose attached. Not the first time this season they've had problems with that. And they certainly have not got away with it here. It always was going to be, wasn't it, Martin? Who can make the fewest mistakes is going to win the World Championship. And unfortunately, it's Ferrari and Felipe Massa who've made the mistakes here today.
Once they're told they have penalties, they then have 3 laps to serve that penalty, which is why Rosberg was told, get on with it. Build yourself as big a gap as you can at the front there. You've got Trulli behind you. He'll hopefully hold them up, which is happening. Rosberg's 5 seconds clear. And so he's got a period of time before he'll have to serve that penalty.
Yes, and of course, with the field spreading out as it does after the safety car quite quickly. I mean, already Massa, what would it be, 2 laps since the safety car came in, and already Massa is 18.5 seconds behind the race leader in last place. So a few more laps of this, and Rosberg, yes, he's going to lose a lot of ground, but he's not going to lose as much as he might.
No, and Fisichella's holding them up nicely. He's in 3rd at the moment. He's 3 seconds a lap slower than the leader, Rosberg. So that's holding the pack up. Hamilton, of course, is caught in that pack. Hamilton's now got to pass Coulthard, Webber and Alonso if he wants to win this Grand Prix. And Louise has found a Ferrari spokesman.
Yeah, with Luca Colliani, the Ferrari press officer. Luca, just explain to us what happened there.
You've seen the car, the nozzle remained stuck into the car. And then when Felipe started, he brought the nozzle with himself, and then the mechanic was injured, was hit and injured. The most important thing is that the guy is okay. Now he's in the medical center. He's being brought to the medical center, and we see if he has any injuries or not.
But from what we could see on the replay, the green light telling Felipe was on.
I haven't seen what the replay, so I cannot tell anything. I was just watching everything. I cannot tell you exactly what happened. I'm sorry.
So the green light was on, though?
I don't know. I haven't seen the replay. I was not watching anymore when we saw the guy on the floor. At the moment, the most important thing was taking care of the guy, not who has done the mistake or what was this problem and so on. When there are human beings in danger, it doesn't matter if it's a human mistake of the driver or the mechanic.
Thanks, Luca.
Well, whoever's mistake it is and whatever it means, as Rubens Barrichello throws his hat and throws his gloves into the water rather than into the crowd, kind of sums up his weekend, really. Clearly, Ferrari are not happy about what's happened, and I'm sure that President Luca Di Montezemolo, watching this back at home in Bologna in Italy, will have thrown something fairly soft at his, no doubt, expensive television set, because he has taken personal charge of this campaign, and on several occasions he's gone into work on Monday after a Grand Prix to say, we've got to raise our game here, guys. And he read the riot act to them after the last pit issue, and I'm sure it'll be the same again.
One of those Toro Rossos just belly flopped across those nasty little curves down at turn 10, flying through the air. It appears he got away with it. So Fisichella runs P3 then from Kubica. Remember, Fisichella hasn't stopped
but he's backing this train up such that Rosberg is now 10 seconds up the road. So car 7 is under investigation. That's Rosberg. Car 4 is under investigation. That's Kubica. They will both get a drive-through penalty. And I suspect Massa will get a drive-through penalty as well for the pit release.
Yeah, he's under investigation too. It'll be a while now. They're looking at it, and then they will make a decision. And the question really from Rosberg's point of view is how long it takes them to make that decision. He knows he's going to get a penalty. It's a fact. He came into the pit lane when it was closed. Nothing to judge.
Because he had to, because he was about to run out of fuel.
Same story for Robert Kubica. Now Nelson Piquet was the man who triggered all of that with his accident, and Louise Goodman's found him.
Nelson, first of all, I'm glad to see you're okay. It was a big bump. What caused it? Did you just lose the back end?
Well, basically, yeah, it was the back end, but I think basically we were running a very, very long first stint. The car was really heavy. The car was touching the floor much more than we expected, so the car was nearly really undrivable. The team was telling me to push as usual, as you guys hear in the radio all the time. I was trying to push with Rubens in front of me because I didn't know how long he was going, and just touched slightly the rear on the one side of the wall, and the car just flew to the other side.
I mean, ironically, the strategy, your teammate's strategy, could work out very well in this situation. The team could still be on for a very good result here.
Well, I didn't. I saw Fernandos around, well, in the top 10 now. I don't know how it is. We were in different strategies, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, my start wasn't very good. I was too heavy. I mean, we didn't expect the car to touch that much because we basically, it was in the straights. I was having to really concentrate on the straights to keep the car straight. So much I was bumpy and touching the floor. So, I mean, basically the tire degradation was higher, and it was much worse than we expected.
Thanks, Nelson.
Well, you've just seen it for yourselves. The drive-through penalty has been adjudged for car number 2. Unsafe release from the pit stop, confirming that as far as the stewards are concerned, they saw that the green light had gone on. That was the indication for Massa to drive off. He did so, of course, with the fuel hose still attached, right into the path of Adrian Sutil. He did it in Valencia and was given a €10,000 fine. Here, which was quite controversial, here he's been given a drive-through penalty, but of course it won't really matter too much because he's 17th anyway. And so half a minute added to his time just makes him even further behind everybody else than he normally is. The man who's looking very good here at the moment is Fernando Alonso, sitting in 5th place. Robert Kubica, Rosberg's been given a drive-through penalty as well.
Now, this is a drive-through penalty where you just carry on through the pits at 50 miles an hour. A 10-second stop and go, which Kubica and Rosberg have, you have to stop for 10 seconds in your own pit box. It's your team's responsibility to stop you for 10 seconds. So that is then Kubica and Rosberg, as we knew, really. It was obvious. And so Rosberg pits. He is currently leading. He'll have to he's got to do that within 3 laps. He's got to serve that penalty, so it'll be interesting to see when they pull him in. We're on lap 25.
Lap 27 of the Singapore Grand Prix. 61-lap race. We're not even at half distance yet. The track which wends its way through the heart of the financial and shopping districts of Singapore. The first ever Formula One night race is proving quite a spectacle. Not only do the cars look great, they're bouncing around, they're kicking out sparks. It's a very busy lap for the drivers. We've also got an eventful Grand Prix because Nelson Piquet, hitting the wall earlier on in this race, bringing out the safety car, has turned the race on its head. In the opening stages, it was Massa leading for Ferrari, from Hamilton in the McLaren, from Raikkonen in the Ferrari, with Kubica in 4th in the BMW. But the safety car coming out, well, it caused all kinds of chaos. First of all, Rosberg and Kubica were forced to pit when the pit lane was closed, and they've been given 10-second drive-through penalties.
Fernando, we're not 100% sure what's happening. Just push like hell to the end of the race, mate.
And they do not have a very clear idea on the Renault wall because the pit stops happened in such a flurry during the safety car period. It was very difficult to get an idea of how long fuel nozzles were on for. So no one's got a very clear idea of what anybody's strategy is. What I can tell you, though, is that Rosberg and Kubica, 1st and 4th, have to serve 10-second drive-through penalties. That will put them down to about 15th or 16th. Jarno Trulli, on a one-stop strategy in the Toyota, is currently 2nd. He will have to stop before too long. Giancarlo Fisichella is 3rd for Force India. He will be making a stop shortly as well. And that will mean that Fernando Alonso, who qualified 15th after a fuel problem in qualifying, and had a racy strategy at the start of this Grand Prix, came in early. It looked like his race was compromised. The accident of Piquet has really helped him. He will be the leader as in Kubica comes for his stop-and-go penalty. And Lewis Hamilton isn't looking too bad either. He has to worry about the 2 Red Bulls now.
Well, they get ready with the rear jack in case he stalls it in gear and they need to jack it up and start it, but they can't change tyres. They can't refuel the car or do any other work on a stop-and-go penalty. It is a pure penalty, but that's what the rear jack man was waiting for there, just in case he stalled the car or the car stalled itself, which is what we believe now happened to Barrichello out on track. Apparently they did get fuel in it, but the car just stopped out there for Honda. So two retirements still, 18 runners, Barrichello, and this is Webber going wide, and that allows, or is it Webber breaking down? That allows, very wide there, Mark Webber. That's cost him dearly, that has, because anytime soon, it was going to be it's going to be Alonso and was Webber, Coulthard, Hamilton, and Webber's just took himself out of the action there.
I think he may have kissed goodbye to a podium chance there. He's lost places to Coulthard, he's lost place to Hamilton, and I think Glock got through as well, and maybe even Vettel as well. So that cost him a huge amount, Mark Webber, with that incident down at turn 2. So Alonso's looking good. Coulthard is looking pretty strong as well. He made a pit stop, as did Webber, just before the safety car was deployed. So perfect timing by the Red Bull team, as in comes Rosberg, the race leader, to serve his 10-second stop-and-go penalty. This will make Jarno Trulli the race leader.
The teams hate this this situation when the pit lanes close for fueling. It's just luck of the draw. They say that it, and the drivers too, that it creates an unreasonable result, an unfair result. Some people take a benefit from it, and they did nothing to achieve that benefit. It was just luck of the draw. But then, as I said, Charlie Whiting will say, well, carry 2 more laps of fuel and be ready for it. The problem is 2 laps of fuel will cost you a tenth or 2 per lap, and that's interesting. Coulthard is tucked up behind Rosberg there.
Well, Felipe Massa has served his drive-through penalty for unsafe release, and really the turning point of this Grand Prix, that issue for Ferrari in the pit lane that will be debated, I think, long and hard after the race. Here is Lewis Hamilton just having a little look at David Coulthard, who's in the twilight of his career, and only 3 more races after this one before David Coulthard hangs up his helmet. How he would love to finish off with another podium. Still that podium he got in Canada, his only result of the season. It happened in similar circumstances to this, with a safety car turning a race around and the wise old brain of David Coulthard coming to the rescue.
Did Rosberg stop? Because I can't understand how he ended up in front. I know he pulled out a good lead, but he's ended up in front of Coulthard and Hamilton, although they were tucked up for a while and held up. But with a drive-through and a stop-and-go penalty, but somehow that's worked out beautifully for Rosberg. Ted has some news.
Yeah, it wasn't Mark Webber's fault. It's mechanical, and I'm afraid it's the end of his race. He's coming in. The mechanics have come out. They're clearing a space in the garage for him. He's passed by a couple of laps now, and the engine has sounded very rough. So it's either a failure of that Renault engine, or some exhaust has actually come off, or either the hydraulics have gone. But they're going to pit Webber and retire him. The end of the race for Mark.
Thanks for that, Ted. You're looking at Lewis Hamilton, currently in... Well, it's hard to say at the moment. The order just going through. He was 6th before that flurry of stop-and-go penalties. In comes Giancarlo Fisichella in the Force India. He was 2nd. Alonso now is up into 2nd for the Renault on a very competitive-looking strategy here this afternoon. Rosberg is 3rd. Coulthard is 4th. Hamilton is 5th for McLaren. 6th is Timo Glock in the Toyota. 7th, Sebastian Vettel, who was a couple of places higher than that, but went off the road a few laps ago. Nick Heidfeld is 8th. And Kazuki Nakajima is in 9th place.
Safety car or not, good job from Giancarlo Fisichella. He now puts on the white stripe, slightly softer rubber, and he'll stop again this afternoon, this evening, tonight, wherever you are in the world. But we're not halfway through this Grand Prix yet, James.
I'm not sure he will, you know. He's serving his... He came in around half distance, and he took enough fuel on to get him to the end, and he will have used both types of tyre. So I think Fisichella is doing a one-stopper, as I imagine Jarno Trulli is going to as well. You have to, of course, use both types of Bridgestone tyre, so the harder ones, which don't have a white stripe on, and the softer ones, which do. Hamilton, we didn't see how much fuel he took on at his pit stop, and there is Mark Webber retiring his Red Bull car, so just the one Red Bull remaining then for David Coulthard, and poor old Mark Webber. He had a chance of a podium here this evening. not for the first time, bad luck gets in the way of the Aussie.
So Rosberg's lap was 2 minutes 12. And that includes going through. That's 22, 23 seconds longer than a normal lap. And if he's got to stop for 10 seconds in the pits, that was quite a quick run through the pit lane, wasn't it? There was a 10-second stop and go he had to serve.
Yeah.
And so surely that's going to cost him over approaching half a minute, isn't it?
Well, we were predicting that Kubica would come out around Felipe Massa, and he's just behind him. So his stop is normal in the way it's played out, whereas Rosberg is 24 seconds up the road from Robert Kubica. So, yes, it is mystifying how he managed to pull that one out.
I might be talking rubbish, not for the first time, not for the last, for sure, but let's wait. I'd like to know if Rosberg actually stopped on his stop-and-go penalty.
Let's not forget he did have an 11-second lead over second-place Jarno Trulli before he made it, but he definitely stopped. We saw it on the TV. So, anyway, it worked out very well for Nico Rosberg as the assembled masses in the Toyota team look on, see their man Jarno Trulli leading a Grand Prix, and well, he was the man holding up the train in the early stages of this Grand Prix, but now that the fuel has burned off, he's found some pace.
Fernando Trulli will stop in 4 laps. You've got to give it all you've got, mate. Give it all you got.
They are racing each other, and at the moment, because Alonso was in the train held up behind Fisichella after the safety car restart, he is 11 seconds behind. So these laps absolutely critical now for Fernando Alonso, trying to beat his former teammate Jarno Trulli. They're still good friends from the days when they were at Renault together, and now we're going to be treated to an exhibition, I think, of wonderful driving by Fernando Alonso, who is driving this weekend the best he has all year, according to engineering director at Renault, Pat Simmons. There's Massa yielding to Robert Kubica.
I think Massa's lost his mojo. Too many dramas going on, and the penalties and horrible refueling. It's just all going wrong for Massa now, and Kubica taking him for what is 15th place. It's looking unlikely. And he's falling away very quickly as well from Kubica. Has Massa actually got a problem?
I think he may well have. Ted Kravitz, what can you tell us?
I think the problem is that he's about to run out of fuel. The Ferrari guys had no idea, because he went whether he was going to get in time. And there we see that the guys have been out in the pit lane for him for over a lap, just waiting to put some more fuel and some fresh tyres on Felipe Massa. Surely they will fuel him towards the end of the race now, and they make sure he's off, and he's all very gingerly before he goes off there. And, well, the soft tyres, that means it. He's fueled to the end of the race. But, well, it's afternoon over for Ferrari and Massa.
Well, the reserve rigged worked absolutely fine, didn't it? And Massa rejoins the track then with fuel on board and the soft tyres. It's lap 32.
Well, he comes out in front of Kazuki Nakajima, does Jarno Trulli, the erstwhile race leader who's made his one and only stop of the afternoon. And he was racing against Fernando Alonso, so we'll have to see what Alonso can do now as Nakajima lines up to make a pass on the Toyota. Side by side, Trulli's been passed into there before today, but he manages to fight it off. So now it's up to Alonso to do what he can. He was just under 5 seconds behind Jarno Trulli, but of course Alonso has to make a second stop this afternoon. Those two are in contention here. Also in contention is Nico Rosberg. Despite a 10-second stop-and-go penalty, he had managed in the last couple of laps before he served that to build enough of a lead that when he rejoined, he is in third place. David Coulthard is fourth in the Red Bull. Fifth is Lewis Hamilton in the McLaren. Sixth, Timo Glock. Seventh, Sebastian Vettel. And eighth, Nick Heidfeld. In the early stages of this Grand Prix, Massa led Hamilton and Raikkonen, and then we had a safety car due to an accident for Nelson Piquet. That brought chaos to everybody, but most particularly to Ferrari, where Felipe Massa was given the green light to go and drove off with the fuel hose still attached to his car. Lost a lot of time there, but because he was released unsafely into the path of Adrian Sutil, he then also got a drive-through penalty. So his race well and truly compromised. Raikkonen had to queue behind his teammate in all of that chaos. He's down in 12th place, just behind Heikki Kovalainen's McLaren. As you can see, Felipe Massa having a go at Sebastian Bourdais, battling for, what is that, 14th place.
Yep, been looking at the details of Nico Rosberg. He had that stop-and-go penalty as Kovalainen pits from what was 12th place. Rosberg, because they were within reason, it was a while before he got his stop-and-go penalty declared. He was then allowed to do another 3 laps after that, and he built up a 23-second lead as Fisichella was backing the pack up in 3rd, and it's enabled Rosberg, crucially, to come out in front of Coulthard and Hamilton. So depending on where Trulli features later on as well in the Toyota, who doesn't have to stop again now, Hamilton is not in a good position to really maximise the misfortune of Ferrari at the moment.
Not at the moment, but it'll be critical to see exactly what happened relative to Coulthard. I'm sure McLaren will know how long Coulthard fueled for when he came in just before the safety car came out. That's why David Coulthard is so high up. They've got their timing absolutely spot on. As soon as Piquet hit the wall, Red Bull brought both of their drivers in, and that's why Coulthard is in the box seats at the moment. So they'll have measured the nozzle time, and they'll have made sure Hamilton's got a bit more.
You need to try again, Kazuki. Just try again.
Yeah, and down in the pit lane, James, I can answer you there. It was 9 seconds, 9.5 seconds. I was timing it for Coulthard down here. So McLaren will know that, and really, they're just taking it easy in this part of the race. They know that this is good for the championship, great for the championship. They also know that Lewis's brakes are okay. The engine temperatures are okay, and they do have to keep an eye on those engine temperatures, because this engine of Lewis is running now also has to do the Japanese Grand Prix at Fuji in 2 weeks' time. So they're comfortable for the moment, and they will pit Lewis shortly in about under 10 laps to put him to the end of the race.
Thank you for that, Ted. You're riding on board with the 2-time world champion, Fernando Alonso, who was cursing his bad luck yesterday when his high-pressure fuel system failed in qualifying and he ended up 15th on the grid. But because he did, and because it gave him the chance to have whatever strategy he wanted for the start of this race, he went aggressive on a light fuel load. It didn't seem to have worked out for him. But then when everybody had to pit under the safety car, guess what? Alonso was in the pound seats. It's a year since he's won a Grand Prix. This is his 117th start, and he's looking for his 20th Grand Prix victory. And I wouldn't bet against Fernando Alonso, because although the Renault has been uncompetitive for most of this season, it's been really quick throughout practice here, and Alonso looked good for a front 2-row grid slot. So he's got the pace in that car to win this race. It'll just be a question, really, of how far up Hamilton can get. He's behind Rosberg and Coulthard at the moment. Can he do better than 4th?
Raikkonen starting to catch 8th place man Jarno Trulli, 9th place man Nakajima. Ferrari need a point or two in the Constructors' Championship as well as the Drivers' Championship. Massa looks like he's not going to score any points today unless we have another bizarre situation where, such as the safety car earlier on. But Hamilton tucked up there behind David Coulthard. It's so easy to hit that wall on the left-hand side into this area, especially if you're focused on the gearbox of the car in front. But Hamilton could really do with moving on down the road if he wants to be standing on the first 2 steps of the podium. Alonso really is in a strong position now, isn't he?
Well, he's in a strong position in a strong car. He is lapping, what, 0.7 of a second a lap quicker than second place man Nico Rosberg. And because Hamilton is tucked up behind Coulthard's Red Bull, Hamilton is lapping, well, 1.8 seconds a lap slower than Alonso. So as this is playing out, and that's Pat Simmons in the foreground, who I was mentioning before. He used to be Michael Schumacher's race engineer, and a more wily man you will not find in the paddock. Worked for many years with Ross Brawn, of course, when they were the Benetton team. And I mentioned earlier on that he likes to try something different rather than just play it the same as everybody else and go for the dull old one-stopper when you qualify 15th. Try something else. You never know what might happen. It brought them a podium for Piquet in Hockenheim, and they could go one better than that here with victory for Fernando Alonso. 25 laps to go here. And Hamilton, the more time he loses behind Coulthard, the more likely that victory for Alonso will seem.
There's a lot of unknowns out there. We heard Alan Permain, didn't we, telling Fernando Alonso, look, we don't really know what's going to happen, because in the fight to get in the pits or stay out of the pits during the safety car period, so much is going on. It's difficult to know exactly how much fuel is in each car and how much further they can get into this Grand Prix. So it's really difficult to read the strategy here, and I can understand why even the teams with all of their data are saying, we've actually lost touch with this now. Just drive it flat out.
I suppose the one thing from the driver's point of view is a few laps behind the safety car will have given them a chance to have a bit of a breather. Physically, this is expected to be the most difficult race of the season. The air temperature here, even though it's 9:15 at night in Singapore, is 29 degrees. And the humidity is 73%. Martin and I are in a nice air-conditioned commentary box opposite the pits. The drivers are losing about 2 or 3 kilos in fluid and body weight out there, and fatigue is definitely going to become a factor. If you just get an inch or two offline onto the marbles, the dirty, dusty bits offline, just a little lapse of concentration due to fatigue, then you're off and into a wall.
Right, here's the leader then, Alonso, down into turn 2. A little bit out of shape. Massa's been off the road down there as well. Massa, who's currently running down in 16th place. Not really a big drama there for Alonso.
No, but just indicative of what I was just saying, though, about how physically hard it is. There's Nelson Piquet, who triggered all of that safety car action, of course, just watching on.
Rubbing salt in young Piquet's wounds, isn't it?
Yeah.
His accident may well allow his teammate to win the race, and this then... So that means Nakajima's got past Jarno Trulli, doesn't it? I reckon. He has indeed, and Raikkonen fancies a go now. Trulli, with a heavy Toyota, struggled for pace all the way through, hasn't he? And although he ended up in a good position on the track, he's doing 149s when the leaders are doing 146s, and that's why Raikkonen has just closed immediately onto the back, and Nakajima has passed him. Hopefully we'll get a replay of the Nakajima move.
Let's just remind ourselves of the order then, with 24 laps of this 61-lap race to go. Alonso is leading. Rosberg is second. The second stop, of course, was the stop-and-go penalty. He has got to make another pit stop this afternoon. So has Alonso. So has Coulthard, and so has Hamilton, who is in 4th place. Timo Glock is 5th. Sebastian Vettel, the winner of Monza 2 weeks ago, is 6th for Toro Rosso. 7th in the BMW is Nick Heidfeld, and 8th is Jarno Trulli. Jenson Button. Jenson Button's 12th. Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari is down in 10th place. And Robert Kubica had a drive through. As we look at, that's how Nakajima got through.
Turn 7's the favoured place for passing. And gets in the slipstream of the heavily fueled Toyota. Bit of a lock-up. Gets off the brakes and turns in. That's all he can do at that point. It's easy to say, quite difficult to do when you're approaching a corner about 100 miles an hour too fast. But Nakajima did it nicely.
This is Trulli and Raikkonen, the battle for 9th and 10th places. It's another fight back for Raikkonen, again tucked up behind slower traffic. He looks like he's ready for a move, though.
Well, Trulli's a sitting duck, isn't he, when he's got a lot of fuel on board, and they're just driving around the outside of turn 6 and ahead before they get down to 7. So that then puts Raikkonen into 9th place. Remember, points go down to 8th. Massa still down there in 16th, doing 1:49s. Stuck behind Kubica, who's doing 1:48. What's that all about? Why they were front runners before the safety car. Now they're tail enders, miles off the pace.
There's Lewis Hamilton, still tucked up behind David Coulthard, veteran of 243 Grand Prix starts. You're going back, I think, 5 years from the last time David Coulthard won a Grand Prix, but he's won his fair share of them. 13 in a glittering career that sees him as one of the top all-time point scorers. But right now, he is a man who Lewis Hamilton would dearly love to be able to overtake. He wants to inflict maximum damage on Ferrari as a result of the problems that they've had here this evening in this Grand Prix. At the moment, he's set for 4th place and 5 World Championship points, and it looks like Massa isn't going to score any. But if you can do a bit better than that, get another place, the points will start to grow.
Critical phase here for Lewis Hamilton. He's fighting with Coulthard. Coulthard's driving nicely. He's come through from 14th on the grid. It's a day when wise heads are probably quite handy. You've got Alonso out front. But Alonso now is over 22 seconds clear of Coulthard and Hamilton. And that's virtually it's heading towards being a pit stop, isn't it? So Alonso could pit stop quite soon and still come out in 2nd place, and that'll put Hamilton out of the running for a victory.
Yeah, but he may still end up in the podium, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of handshake there is between them. No love lost between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso after the shenanigans of last year when they were teammates at McLaren, of course. So that'll be an interesting cameo if we get it later in the Grand Prix. But meanwhile, the two-time world champion from Oviedo, Spain, is driving like we know that he can. And he richly deserves something out of this season because pound for pound he's been as good as anybody out there. He's driven the wheels off this Renault even when there was absolutely no chance of anything. The evening traffic wends its way home from work from the business district of Singapore. Meanwhile, one of the most expensive shows on earth is taking place on the streets below.
Rosberg pits for Williams from second place. Final stop of the afternoon. On go the softer tyres. He'll wish he'd have done that the other way around, probably, because they're not the favoured tyres. They grain up and lose pace, as I said earlier in the programme, between laps 2 and 7. And he gets out. There goes Glock, who's ahead of Vettel and Heidfeld. So Rosberg's out there. It's really difficult to know just how much further Vettel, Heidfeld and co can go. We don't know how much fuel they put in. They all pitted at the same time.
It's great, the not knowing.
It is.
So Rosberg rejoins in 7th place. He had a 12-second lead over Lewis Hamilton before he made that stop. Still 21 laps to go. We know that Hamilton is doing a long middle stint. He doesn't much fancy this softer Bridgestone compound tyre. He wants to do as short a stint as possible on it. Meanwhile, of course, Alonso has the luxury of knowing that his first stint was on that high-wear tyre, so he doesn't have the pain to take. He's already taken it. He will be able to put on another set of the harder tyres, and that will make him very competitive in the closing stages. So it's looking really good here for an Alonso victory.
I think he's driving so well at the moment, Alonso. I think he's a challenging character, and he's damaged goods to a certain extent amongst some of the teams after some of the events of last year, but he is still possibly, probably even the best out there as a complete package. And he pits now. It's the end of lap 41.
What I love about him is he's absolutely just as motivated now as the day he first came to Formula One. He's had a slow car this year, but you can see the motivation in his eyes when you sit down and talk to him. In this a victory here would be such a rich reward for him and for the whole Renault team who've worked so hard with a difficult car this year. Rosberg resumes the lead then. Where does Alonso come out relative to the Coulthard-Hamilton battle? There it is. He comes out in front of it. That's important. That's critically important.
Yeah, and it's a very slow pit entry, very dirty there. But Alonso then will not get held up in any way with that fight. And does this give Hamilton the chance he needs to clear David Coulthard if he wants to be on the podium? It's now looking very much like Alonso 1, Rosberg 2, and the fight between Coulthard and Hamilton for 3rd place. And Hamilton down the inside into 7, he's got the job done.
Oh, what a beautiful move by Lewis Hamilton. That was magnificent.
Well, Coulthard wrong-footed by the pit exiting Alonso there, and Hamilton knew that was the time he had to seize, had to take the risk. He's up for the World Championship. Coulthard would very much like a podium this afternoon. Hamilton then, that'll prove pivotal on getting some extra points. DC sees it, starts to move across to squeeze him. Just a bit too late on that one, and Lewis probably drawing air in and absolutely... yeah, so close for contact, but good driving from both of them. Hamilton, crucially, on his way.
Well, we know from our mailbag that Lewis Hamilton isn't everybody's cup of tea, but you cannot deny that that was the move of a racer. A world championship at stake. He took a risk, and it looks like the risk has paid off.
So Lewis then, this is what we were talking about a little while ago. Lewis, a full pit stop adrift of Alonso. And Alonso's got the ability to just keep backing Lewis up at this pace. So it really is looking strong for Fernando Alonso now.
Yeah, well, Hamilton's obviously feeling racy, but at the same time, he may need to take a sensible pill. And he's coming into the pits anyway. So whether that's anticipated, whether he's a lap or two earlier than he needed to be, I don't know. But he comes in, having done the hard work to pass David Coulthard, who also pits at the same time. Ted.
No, and that's spot on for Lewis, because they actually allowed him to do the other 2 laps to try and get past Coulthard, but he has to pit now. And I tell you what makes it even worse for Lewis versus Alonso is that he's kept these soft tyres now until the last stint. Alonso Alonso got rid of those soft tyres. Oh, Davy's gone too soon. A little twitch on the Red Bull lollipop, and Davy went too soon, but nothing like Massa's incident. He's out cleanly.
Yeah, a little bit of frustration, I think, from Red Bull. They'd lost the place. They came in the same lap as Hamilton, and of course they were pitting in front of the McLaren, so there was a chance if they could get him out quickly.
And it cost Coulthard, I think, position to Jarno Trulli. And there it is. Let's watch it. The car's creeping forward. No, just something going on there. The refueler was nowhere near ready, but no damage done, it seems, anywhere. But I think it's cost Coulthard a position. He'd lost it to Hamilton anyway. I think it may have cost him that position to Jarno Trulli. Alonso leads the Grand Prix from Timo Glock, who's yet to pit. It's lap 43.
Come on, go and get Trulli. Go and get Trulli.
Just 17 laps to go in this first ever night race in Singapore. It's been thoroughly eventful. If it finished like it is at the moment, then Hamilton would lead the championship over Massa by 3 points. But there's a lot still to happen because Timo Glock is in second place behind race leader Fernando Alonso in the Renault. And Glock has to stop again. If I was running the Toyota team, I think I'd bring him in now because he could get out and still get a good points position where he's losing time to all the cars that have already made their second stops that are chasing him down. Rosberg is third, 8 seconds behind Glock. Then it's Raikkonen fourth, Hamilton fifth, and Trulli sixth.
You don't need to panic, Fernando. You've got a good lead. You don't need to panic.
I don't think panic and Fernando Alonso are two words that fit together in the same sentence all that often. I think he knows how to win Grand Prix. He's been there before. Not for a year, though, has Alonso won a race. It's been a very frustrating season for him so far. Why is he in this position? Well, because the early race leader, Felipe Massa in the Ferrari, had a problem in a pit stop that was triggered by the accident of Nelson Piquet's Renault that brought out the safety car, and under that safety car everybody pitted, including Massa, and he drove off with the fuel hose attached to his car, and then was also given a drive-through penalty for being released unsafely into the path of another car. So Massa's race completely compromised. Raikkonen and his teammate had to queue behind him. He's currently lying in fourth place, having fought his way back through the field, but has a second stop to make. Lewis Hamilton is fifth for McLaren. He's made his second stop of the afternoon, so he will move up when Glock and Raikkonen pit into third place. The question really is, can Hamilton catch and pass Nico Rosberg?
Well, he's 11.8 seconds behind. Make that 10.8 now. They've just completed another lap. So Hamilton has got a chance of second place here. He's got to watch out for Timo Glock, who's driven very well and has another stop to make. Glock is 20 seconds ahead of Hamilton at the moment, so he should come out behind Lewis Hamilton. All going on there for Kubica, passing Sutil, I believe that is, and then Massa. This is for it's Fisichella. It's 13th, 14th and 15th they're fighting over. I don't know why Massa and Kubica have had no pace since that drive-through.
And we mustn't forget that Massa was incredibly quick in the opening stint, wasn't he? Before the safety car came out, he looked to have this race bought and paid for. That's the second time he's gone off the road, Felipe Massa, in the second half of this Grand Prix. An enormously frustrating afternoon for him. That's the top 8 then. Alonso, Glock, Rosberg, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Trulli, Vettel, Heidfeld. Jarno Trulli won't stop again. He's on a one-stop strategy, so he's looking pretty good for some points. Vettel is only a second behind him, though, and we've seen Trulli being relatively easy to pass here this evening, so I think Vettel might have a go at him. Coulthard rejoined in 9th place after that little mix-up in the pits. Jenson Button's had a decent afternoon. He's in 11th in the Honda. Not really with the pace to make any impression, but nevertheless a stronger showing than Honda have managed for a while. This will be for Glock. Remember, he ran second in Budapest a couple of months ago. Really made his mark in Formula 1 this year, Timo Glock, particularly in the second half of the season. But where does he rejoin? Be very close to his teammate Jarno Trulli, I would guess, around 6th place. Meanwhile, here's the race leader, who now has a 15-second lead over Nico Rosberg. I was talking to Pat Simmons this afternoon before the race, the engineering boss of the Renault team, and saying what rotten luck it was for Alonso that he had this quick car under him. He loves this track and is very fast around here. and in practice he'd looked very strong indeed, and yet this problem they'd had with the fueling system that had caused him to qualify down in 15th place. And guess what? By trying something different on the race strategy, the pieces fell into place for them, and it just shows you it's worth taking a chance.
Well, certainly when you're that far down the grid, as you said earlier, James, there's no point in just following the herd, is there? You've got to come up with something pretty inventive. It's lap 47. Alonso's lead over Rosberg is 15.5 seconds. Raikkonen 2.7 behind. How much fuel has Raikkonen got on board? Could they have got enough in to get him to the end of the race? I don't think so. Ted's down there.
No, Martin. I mean, it's quite big, Ferrari's fuel tank, but it's not that big. Although I am looking down the pit lane, and there's no movement yet at Ferrari. But just down here at McLaren, they are starting to think that maybe this was some points lost, and they would have ended up with 10th if things gone differently. And Lewis got past David Coulthard. That was really where he lost it. He drove so slowly behind DC. The team will, I'm sure, give it the usual, oh, he was conserving everything. But he was driving slower than he could do otherwise. So that's really where he lost the win.
A rather alarmed David Coulthard there, I think, while Ted was talking, saying, I'm losing the brakes. Not a good feeling, I would imagine, when there's concrete walls all around.
Well, we know brakes are marginal, and that's an interesting point. How many other cars are out there getting to the end of the thickness of their pads and discs, the carbon fibre pads and discs that hold these cars down at 5 times the force of gravity into the corners, corner after corner, 61-lap race. It's tough for the brakes, tougher than anybody, I think, planned for here. The layout of the track they knew pretty well. Obviously, nobody tested around here, but they've all found the brakes to be more under pressure than they expected. So, Jarno Trulli then, Vettel behind him, and Nick Heidfeld following up too. They're 6th, 7th and 8th at the moment. Right now, Coulthard is slowing and is out of the World Championship points, is David Coulthard.
It's going to be touch and go whether we actually manage the 64 laps, because having had the safety car, it was going to be an hour and 50 minutes anyway in dry conditions with no safety car, but it's going to be 24, nearly 25 minutes still to go, probably, at the sort of pace they're doing at the moment. 14 laps, and it's past 25.2, so interesting to see if we hit the 2-hour limit before we actually hit the 61 laps. I'm not sure when they worked this race out, they decided to go for the 300 kilometres distance and 61 laps, and perhaps didn't take into account how slow this circuit is. This is an epic race. This is like Grand Prix racing in the turn of the century, when they used to last for half a day and drive 200, 300, 400 miles.
Good though, isn't it? I'm really enjoying it. I love the reason why you can see the driver's eyes is because normally on a sunny day they're wearing tinted visors. Of course, with the lighting and clear visors, we're getting really watching these drivers at work. This is a hard track to drive. It's lap 49. Alonso leads Rosberg by 17.5 seconds, who's now got Raikkonen closing in.
Into the closing stages of this enthralling Singapore Grand Prix, the first ever Formula One night race. That is Jarno Trulli's Toyota coasting around. He's on a one-stop strategy here this afternoon. He played himself into contention for some points, but seems to be having some problems. Fernando Alonso, the two-time world champion, at the wheel of the Renault, which has not had a sniff of a podium in his hands this season, is leading this Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg is second as Kimi Raikkonen, the reigning world champion, pits from 3rd place. It's been a terrible day at the office, or an evening at the office, I should say, for the Ferrari team. Felipe Massa leading in the early stage of this Grand Prix before driving off with his fuel hose still attached at the first round of pit stops. And Lewis Hamilton now goes up into 3rd place, but he is closing in on Nico Rosberg. Hamilton then is through to the finish of this Grand Prix on the fuel. Timo Glock is 5th.
6th place, I think.
There's 5th now is, sorry, Glock is up to 4th. Raikkonen slots in 5th and Vettel 6th.
Yeah, the curve is damaged down there at turn 7, apparently, where we've seen all the overtaking as they run slightly wide. I don't quite know what that means, but presumably the curves come loose. And Jarno Trulli there, that's the sneaking across the inside. It's a replay, obviously. And Massa, water on the track there. And what happens is those safer barriers, the crash barriers there, tend to get water in. Is this going to be another safety car? Because that is in a very, very difficult position. And Yeah, and Massa had already gone off. I wonder if the track's oily or got water on it or something in there. A fire on the right front brake there of the Force India. They'll need to get an extinguisher on that pretty quickly. Safety car is out. Jarno Trulli retires.
And that big lead that Alonso had built up, 18.5 seconds over Nico Rosberg, is going to be reduced to nothing. It doesn't compromise any of the front runners because they've already made their second or third final stops, I should say, of the race. So it's not going to mess them around too much in terms of their race strategy. But what it is going to do is give us an amazing finish to this Grand Prix with Alonso, Rosberg, Hamilton, all going for it from behind the safety car. And this has given Lewis Hamilton a chance. If he's feeling aggressive and he fancies making up some more places, he can have a go at Rosberg at the restart. We will see. Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, that's a gearbox problem for Jarno Trulli. He was stuck in 4th gear, I believe, and came in very slowly. They've had to put him up onto a little tray and push him into the garage.
I think Massa just took his eye off the ball there. And as he's recovering and there's water on the track, the Force India sort of fell off in sympathy, really. So Massa, I think, was slightly distracted by the Toyota that was coasting.
The water comes off the board, yeah.
But he's already in trouble before the water gets there. So I think it was a combination of things that just and yet another story in Felipe Massa's race today. But I think he was busy watching the Toyota and just got a little bit too hot into the corner.
Well, it's a bit of a bit of a mess down there, but it's not quite on the line. It's a brave bloke to stand there. I tell you what.
The safety car's out, but nonetheless. A lot of these marshals, I think, are new to it. They're helped out, I think, by a lot of Australian marshals here, helping them out. Look how hot and bothered Jarno Trulli is.
Yeah, he fought hard on a one-stop strategy. He's not too happy. Chance of some points was there for him, but unfortunately the car was not. And there's Felipe Massa with a lot of regret sitting in that cockpit, comfortably leading this Grand Prix in the early stages before the safety car, the first safety car, was deployed that brought around the pit stop chaos, which has cost him victory in this Grand Prix and any chance of any points. He's down in 14th place, and well, he might pick up a few places in the mad dash to the finish once the track is cleared, but he's not going to get any points this afternoon. And his main championship rival, Lewis Hamilton, looks set to get 6 points at least, but if he's feeling audacious and he fancies a run at second, he might even get 8 points. Well, Mark Webber was in a good position. He made a tactical pit stop just before the safety car that looked as though it had done him some favours. The car let him down again, unfortunately. He's now with Louise.
Well, Mark, that was a great shout to get both of you guys in just before the safety car, but it's gone a bit wrong since then.
Yeah, we lost 7th and then 5th gears, and yeah, it cost us a fantastic result because I was stopping quite late, even later than Fernando. I think would have been nice to share the podium with Fernando, maybe him winning and me second, but that we got a bit lucky with the safety car, but then we, like I say, it didn't work out for us. So yeah, we had some good pace in the second stint, and it was going to work out really well for us. But unbelievable. I've never stopped with a gearbox problem in this car. So
and problems for David in his pit stop as well. What do you know about that?
I just saw, obviously, that there was a bit of confusion with the lollipop rig lollipop, whatever, and one of the guys has twisted his ankle a bit, but he'll be okay.
Well, we saw the curve down there at turn 7. Looks like something could really be picked up, but they're bolted down on both sides. But maybe they'll be dragging that away. It's not exactly a race-stopping incident down there on that curve, that's for sure. Safety car is in this lap. Hamilton was only about 5 seconds behind Rosberg and catching him at a second a lap before the safety car period. So you can expect, I think, Alonso to scamper up on the front. The big fight now is going to be between Rosberg and Hamilton, because I think Glock behind Hamilton is not fast enough to bother them. So we're going to see a great fight between those two friends who came through all the karting together. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton for second and third. Rosberg must know Hamilton can't take a big risk for the World Championship.
Yes, he'll be reluctant to chop him and cost Hamilton any chance of the World Championship. There's a lot of emotions at play here. They know each other very, very well. As you say, they came through the karting ranks together. There's Sam Michael, the technical director of the Williams team. He's been behind many victories with Montoya, Ralf Schumacher. It's been a lean period for Williams. They've had one podium this season season, of course, with Nico Rosberg in Australia, where Lewis Hamilton was the winner that day. Such joy between the two of them up on the podium. And what is the story going to be? This magnificent circuit wending its way through the shopping districts, past some beautiful hotels, past the appeal court building and the business districts as well. A massive success, this first ever Singapore Grand Prix. And what will the conclusion be? The huge lead that Alonso had built up has been taken away to nothing. Rosberg is second, Hamilton is third. Will this be the finishing order?
Respect to Rosberg and Williams. Remember, Nico served a 10-second stop-and-go penalty under green flag conditions. You're not allowed to serve penalties behind the safety car. That's why they don't come zooming straight back in and get them out of the way. Has to be under racing conditions to be a true penalty.
Everyone stands up and pays attention. They've been enthralled by this Grand Prix, as we all have, and now we wait to see what the order will be at the end. Alonso will be the one who drops the hammer and gets it going. Hamilton is right up Nico Rosberg's gearbox as we get ready for the restart. Under the bridge they go. Still a few more corners to go. Alonso's allowing this safety car to get well ahead before he picks his moment to drop the hammer. Rosberg knows he's got a shark nibbling at his heels in the shape of Lewis Hamilton. There goes the safety car, and here goes Hamilton. Green flag in Singapore. Rosberg is not particularly quick on the restart. Can Hamilton do enough to pick him off? Probably not into turn one. It's Alonso, Rosberg, Hamilton, Glock, Raikkonen fifth. 6th Vettel, 7th Heidfeld, 8th Coulthard.
Hamilton's got to fancy his chances at the end of the straight, turn 6. The kink, and then and he's just fallen back a little bit there, but it's just down there. If he can get in the slipstream off the exit of this corner, but Rosberg's got the drive, got the traction out of there, and Hamilton nowhere near him then through this critical section with the heavy braking down into turn 7, and no chance of an overtake. Nico Rosberg handling that restart very well indeed, and there's Coulthard going through, and I don't know if that was for position with I think he's fighting with Nakajima for position for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, he was in front of him. I think Nakajima had got him, and then he's got him back again. And look at Kovalainen in the McLaren. He's not had a particularly eventful afternoon, but he still finds himself down in 11th place. That's got to be a bit of a worry for him and the team. Alonso, though, streaking away at the front. And Hamilton looked like he just couldn't control the car when he was tucked up behind Nico Rosberg. That's the lead already for Fernando Alonso, now just 8 laps away from victory. And as Hamilton settled for 6 points and 3rd place, or he's got to worry about Raikkonen passing Glock for 4th and then having a go at him. Still a lot can happen here. It's going to be, 16, 17 minutes of racing left. And, well, that's what we've got theoretically, but it's 13 minutes to here, so we're going to hit the 2-hour mark before we hit 61 laps.
Nakajima hanging it out, nearly lost it into the Marina Bay area here. He's fighting Coulthard for the last World Championship point available today for 8th place. And just behind them, then, is Button, Kovalainen, Kubica and Fisichella. Alonso's lead 3.7 seconds at the end of the first lap from the restart of the second safety car of the race. And Rosberg 1.2 ahead of Hamilton. Glock hanging on pretty well, a second behind Hamilton. Raikkonen somehow found himself with a few World Championship points available.
Well, he's always there, isn't he, Kimi Raikkonen? Always there or thereabouts. And he was running well in the early part of the Grand Prix, in 3rd place behind Massa and Hamilton. Got caught up in that pit chaos at Ferrari and lost some time there, but nevertheless a fighting drive by Raikkonen to get himself back into 5th place, with Sebastian Vettel 6th, Heidfeld 7th, and Coulthard looking to score a point for Red Bull in 8th place, but he's got Nakajima giving him a lot of trouble. And what's Hamilton going to do now? He's regrouped after that slide behind the Williams of Rosberg. Is he going to have a go, or is he going to settle for 3rd place?
Well, he's 3/10 quicker in the first sector over the Anderson Bridge. And, well, remember, Lewis was catching Nico Rosberg at a second a lap before the safety car. Whatever it is, Rosberg's been happier on the cold tyres after the restart. And now Lewis coming at him, but he can't afford to take a risk. He's got a 3rd place in his pocket. If, with Massa non-scoring, I think he'll only have a go if there's a clear-cut chance.
Well, we all applaud the racers out there, and we want to see the race. It was, of course, that spirit that took Hamilton past Coulthard, took a risky move to get himself past him earlier in this race. But in this situation, with only a few minutes left in this Grand Prix before the checkered flag is shown, he has to think back to China last year, where he went for glory, tried to win the World Championship on the day, And of course, on the wrong tyres at the wrong moment, threw it all away. And I think 6 points here is better than sticking the car in the wall, but he doesn't seem to think that way.
No, I think he'd be slightly frustrated not to maximise the opportunity with Massa out of the running with that fuel rig drama. But at the same time, it's been such a crazy race. As you say, 6 points might be very welcome right now.
Well, Ron Dennis this morning in his regular press briefing was saying that they could afford to finish second behind Massa if that's the way it worked out. They believe that of the 3 remaining races at Fuji in Japan, Shanghai, China and Interlagos, Brazil, that it's likely to rain at possibly 2 of them. And of course the McLaren has shown much better performance in wet conditions than the Ferrari, so they felt that they could afford to play a tactical game here if needs be this evening. It's not worked out that way, of course, because of Massa's misfortunes with the refueling rig, but surely now Ron Dennis will be saying, let's take the 6 points. You've got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and I think this is an opportunity for Hamilton to take the points and get away from here.
Alonso's lead over 6 seconds already. He's really looking strong for his 20th Grand Prix victory, what will be his 50th podium for Fernando Alonso. And Glock keeping Hamilton honest there, and Raikkonen at bay. Glock has just improved all through the season, hasn't he? Doing a very, very good job for Toyota.
Well, let's not forget that, of course, Timo Glock was racing in GP2 against Lewis Hamilton that championship year 2006, and he was his fiercest rival, really, although finished behind Nelson Piquet in the points. Glock was the one that gave him the hardest run for his money. I was talking to him last night and he said after Hamilton everyone expected, you know, me coming through as a GP2 champion to set the world on fire, but it's difficult if you haven't got the car under you. But as the season's gone on and his Toyota has been suited more and more to his driving style, he's not a spectacular racer, Glock, but he's very consistent and he's very fast. He's also very bright, and you can add his name to the list of really exciting Grand Prix drivers that we've got in the field at the moment.
I wonder if Hamilton's settled for third now. Glock caught him slightly on that lap. They're quite a bit off of Alonso's general pace. Alonso's lead, though, staying at 6 seconds. I think Alonso's coasting it as well now.
Well, it's been a tremendous success, this first Singapore Grand Prix, hasn't it? From soup to nuts, we've been really well treated here by the locals. The buildings are magnificent, and I don't know what you're all thinking at home watching this. Whatever time zone you're in, whether you're in Australia or Indonesia, Malaysia, or watching us in the UK on ITV, but it's certainly been quite a spectacle. It's been a strange one for us physically, going to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning and waking up at 2 in the afternoon. It's a bit like being a teenager again.
Yeah, it's great. Alonso then, it's lap 57. There are 6 minutes 50 remaining of the time available, I think. No, or they're showing over 10 minutes now remaining. Ted's down in the pits.
Yeah, and this won't go to time. Everyone thinks down here that actually he will continue the laps, but there you see Ron Dennis. He has been constantly on the intercom to Phil Prix and Richard Hopcoat, who are Lewis's engineers, talking to them. They have infrequently been talking to Lewis. I think any instruction to hold station might be met with a bit of resistance from Lewis. I think he fancies a go. He knows the situation, know that 8 points is much better than 6, but meantime at Williams, Nico's engineer has just been counting down the laps to him. OK, Nico, 6 laps, 5 laps to go now. Watch out for Lewis at turn 1 and turn 7. That's where they think he'll have a go.
Well, the clock is counting down, 9 minutes and 40 seconds. Of course, you've got to allow for the parade lap, I suppose.
Yeah, the green flag lap.
The green flag lap to come round. So that's the one that adds the extra time to it. But I think we will get the 61 laps in then on that basis. Alonso, Rosberg, Hamilton, the top 3, Glock 4, Raikkonen 5th, Vettel 6th, Heidfeld in 7th, Coulthard 8th, Nakajima 9th, 10th is Jenson Button, 11th Heikki Kovalainen. That's not good for him. Kubica 12th, of course the stop and go penalty. Bourdais 13th, 14th Massa, his pit stop howler earlier on with the Ferrari team, driving away with the fuel hose attached. The reason for that, if you're just joining us. Oh, it's the wall. Goes the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen from 5th place. So it's going to be no points for Ferrari here.
He caught those curbs, the concrete chunks on the curbs, put him into the air slightly. He didn't really hit them badly, just launched off the final one. And he's out of the firing line of anybody, so no safety car will be required. And Well, what an evening for Ferrari. Disaster.
Yep, he's just dumped 4 World Championship points there. What was that, a concentration error, fatigue error?
Well, let's just have a look. He clips the first. He took a lot of the second one and just couldn't wrestle the resulting slide early enough to avoid the wall. But he didn't really fly, did he, like Fisichella yesterday? It just got away from him, basically. That's a poor error.
Boom. Well, 4 points go, and that could be important in the Constructors' Championship when the counting is done, because Lewis Hamilton looks set to get 6 World Championship points, and McLaren were 5 behind going into this Grand Prix, so they will lead coming away from this race by 1 point. The Constructors' Championship, I think it's the first time since Australia that they've been in that position. But obviously, if Raikkonen had scored the 4 points, Ferrari would still be in front. So a lot of pain, I think, will be felt by the squad from Maranello this evening.
Lewis Hamilton looks like a man very happy with the lowest step on the podium to me. He's not hustling the car, it's not moving around, dancing around like it would be if he wanted that second place.
Well, as I was saying before, it'd be interesting to see the body language between him and Fernando Alonso, as Alonso looks down on him from the top step, having won the Grand Prix in a Renault, but he will know that strategy had a lot to do with it. Of course, he's driven magnificently. There is Flavio Briatore, who steered the Renault team to those 2 World Championships. Back in the 90s, of course, when it was Benetton, he steered Michael Schumacher to 2 World Championships as well. Great to see Flavio back, I'm sure, up on the podium.
He's 5.4 ahead of Rosberg. Rosberg closing at a second a lap, trying to keep Hamilton at bay. So 23 laps to go, including this one, of course. So presumably Alonso's still got it all under control. But a remarkable amount of stress going on the Renault pit wall.
Yeah, well, he seems to have it all gathered up, as you say. It's been pretty comfortable for Alonso ever since the situation arose after the safety car. That's what turned this Grand Prix completely on its head. It was triggered, ironically, by Alonso's teammate, Nelson Piquet, hitting the wall, but it certainly paid off in spades for Fernando Alonso. He's heading for his 20th Grand Prix victory. Here he is, let's ride with him.
It's 4.6 ahead of Rosberg now. Sounds fine, looks fine.
Rosberg heading for his best result in Formula 1. Previous best was a podium in Australia, the first race of this season, and long overdue points for the Williams team as well. It's been a tough season for them. Plenty of no scores along the way. They've dropped right down behind Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, down in 7th place at the moment. And will they move ahead of Red Bull? No, they won't. They'll be a point behind them. From 14th on the grid. An amazing drive by Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, that accident of Raikkonen's is just classic street circuit stuff. Take your eye off the ball for a nanosecond and you're in the wall, and you've done that corner so many times, so much under control, and the merest lack of concentration and it's all over. And you almost seem to be a passenger when I've done that before on a street circuit, and you're so in the zone, you're so in the groove, and all of a sudden you're in the wall, and it seems there's no anticipation of or view of a barrier coming up as you're sliding across the grass. You're straight in the wall, and it's almost as if it's happening to somebody else in the first split second.
Well, as we watch the race leader Fernando Alonso, Felipe Massa, who led the opening stint of this Grand Prix, is down in 13th place, and he revealed the other day that he had a dream in which he was the world champion. It's the first time he's ever allowed himself to talk in those terms, first time he's ever allowed himself to even discuss the possibility of winning a world championship. That dream has clearly turned into a nightmare on the streets of Singapore here this evening. And instead, it's Fernando Alonso who plays his cards right and is going to come through on the anniversary of his last Grand Prix victory to win for Renault. It's been quite a drought for them since winning the 2006 World Championship. There is Lewis Hamilton, who looks set to take home 6 World Championship points, increasing his lead over Massa to 7 points with 3 races to go.
Yep, 30 points available then, and 7 ahead. Mind you, he was 16 ahead, wasn't he, last year, and it didn't win it.
Yeah, but it means crucially that he can afford to finish second behind Massa in all the remaining 3 Grand Prix, and he'd still be the world champion.
Yeah, good point.
Of course, I'm sure Raikkonen have something to say about that. But it is an important psychological situation for Lewis Hamilton, and really those two have been in a league of their own, pace-wise and performance-wise, in the closing stage of this Grand Prix. 3 times in the last 5 races they've started together on the front row of the grid. So it's going to be a hot finish to this World Championship season, but let's stand and celebrate the achievement of Fernando Alonso in his 118th Grand Prix start, coming through to take his first victory of the season and Renault's first win of the season, and the 20th of his Formula One career. The man who many regard at the moment as the best pound-for-pound driver in Formula One, Fernando Alonso, coming through to take the checkered flag and claim a very, very well-deserved victory in Formula One's first ever night race. Second is Nico Rosberg, and extending his championship lead, Lewis Hamilton finishes 3rd.
Yeah, 4th for Glock, 5th. 2 more points, more points for Vettel, for Toro Rosso. Heidfeld 6th, Coulthard with 2 points for 7th. Nakajima just beats Button over the line for the final World Championship point in 8th place.
And that puts Williams level. Oh no, it doesn't. Red Bull, of course, got points with 2 for David Coulthard. So they're just nibbling at their heels in the Constructors' Championship. And there's the man who led from pole position at the start, Felipe Massa, crawling across the line in 13th place. Tremendous Grand Prix here in Singapore. Who's your driver of the day?
My driver of the day is Nico Rosberg. Let's just listen to this.
Ci siamo, bravo, ci siamo, e vai, finalmente, cazzo, vai, 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 vai.
It's an irony, isn't it? Without that...
That was brilliant. Well done, Fernando. Fantastic drive. Well done. Perfect.
Well done, guys. Well done. Super car all weekend. Not like yesterday, good luck today, but good car everywhere.
It's an irony, isn't it, that without that fuel line falling off in qualifying and being back in 15th on the grid, forcing them to do an unusual strategy that worked perfectly when the safety car came out because the other Renault hit the wall. It's played into his hands, but I have to say, Alonso has been on form and on fire here all weekend, and I think his speed and the handling of that Renault car deserved a victory, no doubt about it, but it did play nicely into their hands. That's why, for me, Rosberg was the driver of the day, and remembering that he had a 10-second stop-and-go penalty that he had to put up with as well, because he was forced to pit when the pit lane was closed. He was about to run out of fuel, so I think Rosberg did a stellar job there.
Certainly did. You can see many different makes of car in the points. Only Williams getting 2 cars in a points-paying position. That's the kind of effect you get when a safety car turns a Grand Prix on its head, turns strategies on its head, and causes, in the pressure of the situation, weird things to happen, as happened to Ferrari in their pit stop. So Felipe Massa goes home empty-handed, and Raikkonen hitting the wall. No points for Ferrari in this Grand Prix, and that's the first time this season that they've drawn a blank, and what a time to do it.
Massa's last lap was a 1 minute 55, 10 seconds off the pace. Last but one runner in 13th, and I think he absolutely lost his motivation after all of the dramas when he knew he couldn't score a point.
There's Martin's driver of the day, Nico Rosberg. He was aggressive from the outset and did a fantastic job, and so did the Williams team in giving him the opportunity to stay out as long as he possibly could before serving that penalty. That's the Drivers' Championship situation. Critically, as we mentioned earlier, it means that Hamilton can afford to finish 2nd behind Massa in all the remaining Grand Prix. He would lose 2 points per Grand Prix if he did that, and he would still be the world champion in Brazil. So that's a big psychological barrier jumped for Lewis Hamilton. And Alonso, well, he's not really counting his position in the championship this year, but that's a well-deserved victory. And time for some more antics. Well, you give a great driver a chance, and he always takes it. Fantastic performance by Alonso. Herbie Blash there, who works with Charlie Whiting in race direction, just congratulating him. He's in charge of getting the drivers through. And you can see that McLaren, Mercedes take over.
What has today's race told us about Felipe Massa? Maybe we'll have more time to discuss that in a few minutes, but I think the three drivers, the top three, are in the press conference at the moment, and we will hear from Fernando Alonso, and we will hear from them in the drivers' press conference very shortly. But what have we learned about Felipe Massa then, if he did lose concentration to that extent after all his problems?
I think
it's not the mark of a champion, is it?
It's not the mark of a champion in many ways, but I have to say all of that was done by the team in terms of they letting him out the pits too early. You know, the driver didn't do anything wrong, so we're probably being a bit harsh on Massa in general. But saying that, very costly to him, and I think he's going to be looking at the World Championship through different glasses now.
OK, they are now set to go with the drivers' press conference, and Fernando Alonso is back as a Grand Prix race winner for the first time in exactly a year.
Fernando, bad luck yesterday. You were very quick on Friday and Saturday. Bad luck with mechanical trouble, but made up for it today with a fantastic drive.
Yeah, fantastic. First podium of the season and first victory as well, and you know, extremely happy. You know, I cannot believe it right now. I think I need a couple of days to realize that we won a race this year. It seems impossible all through the season to be closer to the top guys, and here certainly we've been competitive from Friday. As you said yesterday, unlucky in qualifying, and today very lucky in the race. Obviously, we start at the back, and the first safety car, I think, helped me a lot, and I was able to win the race.
The first safety car caused, in fact, by your teammate, Nelson Piquet. You came in on lap 12, 3 laps before that safety car, which really gave you a strong position when everybody else had to pit after the pit lane had opened again.
Yeah, as I said, you know, unlucky yesterday and very, very lucky today. We choose to do a very aggressive first stint because we knew that starting 15 you cannot overtake anyone here. So we thought about one stop strategy, but we had some concern with the brakes. So we said one stop is not possible. So we try something very different. We try a very short first stint, try to make as many places as possible at the start and in the first lap, and then we see from there. And the start was good, but obviously not good enough. And then, you know, as I said, very lucky. But, you know, the pace was there because after all through the race, we were able to pull some distance, some gap to the guys behind us. And this was thanks to the car that was super today.
And the pace was certainly there at the second restart on the Bridgestone Primes. Fantastic. You pulled out 2-3 seconds a lap.
Yeah, I think I was little bit advantage compared to Nico because the tires, I think the Prime were a little bit better, so I was with the better tire in this last stint of the race, and I was running with low revs when I was alone, and then in the restart I put maximum engine, and thanks to the tires as well I was able to pull away from Nico.
Congratulations, Fernando, a brilliant win. And Nico, congratulations to you, your best ever finish in Formula One. And it started, again, not looking too good for you, trapped behind Jarno Trulli. You got past, then you pulled out a good lead from him. And looked like you were forced to come into the pits under the safety car conditions and incur a penalty.
Yeah, I had a bit of a difficult start on the dirty side. Didn't get away too well. And then dropped behind Jarno, and he was pretty slow. I suppose he was heavy on fuel, so I absolutely had to get by him. The problem was that my only chance was turn 1, where I wasn't ever quite close enough, and turn 7, where on the inside it's so bumpy that it's simply impossible to outbrake someone. I mean, it's very, very difficult. And so it took some time till I was literally alongside and I could just brake on the inside, and even then it was quite a hairy moment because locked up everything. But no, I came through, and then I was doing one qualifying lap after another because I knew it was my only chance to break clear of that group, and it worked out well.
And it worked out well for you after you incurred that penalty. You had enough lead and enough cushion then to be in a very strong position towards the end of the race.
Yeah, well, when I had to come in, when I saw the safety car coming out just on the lap where I had to pit, the crew had already told me, come in this lap, and then the safety car comes out. I was like, this is not possible, you know, it's every single time exactly the same thing. And so I was like, I was really annoyed, you know, I thought that was it, that was the end of it. And until I realized that I was able to pull enough gap afterwards, even to be in a good position after my stop and go. So that was great.
Which I guess means that the car felt pretty good underneath you.
Yeah, well, it felt pretty good. I mean, we were definitely quite strong on this track, which is really pleasing that we had a good chance here this weekend, and everything went our way for once, which is fantastic for me and for the whole team.
Congratulations to you, Nico. And Lewis, congratulations to you. I guess you're kind of wondering where the race went today, but in fact you were the first guy out if you take away everybody else who had come in before the safety car or had to incur a penalty. But how did your pit stop go when you came in for the first time?
My pit stop went really well, actually, and to be honest, I was held in I had to wait a little bit because there was a few cars coming past, including Felipe, and I think it was perhaps Nico or something coming into his stop, and so I lost a little bit of time there, but fortunately it didn't cause me any troubles, and we had great pace. Generally, I've been unfortunate. I got stuck behind DC, and he was he was a good second slower than me, but also a good second slower than everyone else. Or everyone in front of us. So and it was so difficult to get closer to him to overtake. But he drove a fantastic race, and so did these two guys. It's good to be up here, though. We got good points.
Fascinating night in Singapore. Grand Prix highlights tonight at 11:15. That's your time. Ahead of that, on ITV4, we've got rugby, our weekly roundup of the Guinness Premiership at 6:30. On Tuesday, it's back to the Champions League. Arsenal against Porto, live on ITV1. ITV4 will have Manchester United's trip to Aalborg. UEFA Cup on Thursday, Manchester City against Omonia. ITV4 at 7. And Japanese Grand Prix, 2 weeks' time. It's your turn to go through the night. Qualifying live at 5:10 on Saturday morning. And the race build-up from 4:30 a.m. on Sunday. But that's Singapore. Fernando Alonso is back on winning form, and that really is great news for the sport. Third place here is maybe not quite what Lewis Hamilton had in mind, but his championship hopes are burning even more brightly as the lights go out in Singapore. From us all here, Mark Blundell and myself, it's good afternoon and good night.